Okay, that should be me. Hello. Do we have things working okay? Scott, welcome in. Thank you for the follow, by the way, last week. Okay, we'll get settled down a little bit before I open up Discord properly, but got the dogs currently contending. Ah. Yep, I've actually streamed for quite a while. Weathers, hello, how you doing? How are things? I'm trying to figure out my screens because my Restream decided today it doesn't want to actually work, so I'm trying to make sure I have YouTube chat up just in case. Just in case that rare YouTube viewer joins chat and I end up missing something. Thank you very much. Yeah. So I put a few commands in. Just have a little fun with this. I don't know why followage doesn't work, but I did turn on I use Streamlabs when I do use a bot. Um Actually, yeah, you've been following since 2019, June 8th, 2019. That's but I did do so I was looking through some sites yesterday. Yep, 5 years. And I pulled up the 1999 versions of the sites that like you're fine. I'm only just getting started. The 1999 version of the site. So back when Google was there, that's what I had available to me as a search platform. YouTube wasn't around. YouTube was still over 5 years away from being even a thing. Um, and that's the way the world looked in 1999. If only we invented YouTube. I know, so many missed opportunities. So I thought those might be some fun commands just to have as I reflect. Um, Dog, what are you doing? Um, yeah, yeah, but that wasn't even a thing for several years to come, right? Um, so yeah, today's stream, I'm going to open up Discord in a little while, so you're more than welcome to drop in. There's a waiting room there. The Discord has an event that you can join, and it'll drop you if you hit the join button. It'll drop you in the event waiting room. I'll open that up in a little bit. Um, Dog, what are you doing? Of all the days for Loki not to settle. Um, we kind of talking about this a little bit last night, right? Um, the way software development works, the way we do things. And I look back on how I started and what I was doing to begin with, and how it shaped me as a developer in the years. And then realizing there's still so much to learn, so many different ways of doing things, so many cool technologies to play with, and it just gets harder by the day, right? A new thing comes along or a new technique appears, and everyone's like, "Oh, you should use this, you should use that, you should use this, you should use that," and it's not hard to understand why people get stuck in that rut, and when they find something that works, they just don't want to keep chasing um, new and interesting ways of doing things. Um, but I think it's what makes this career so fun because it's not the same. The work might be the same, but you can change that as well, right? You can go and look for new opportunities. You should go and look for new opportunities. If you feel you're stagnating and that you're being held back, it is something I think you should do, um, because there's nothing worse than regret, right? Um, so having confidence in your own skill set enough to say, I can go and do this, um, is is an important step. So yeah, it's it's strange to hit 25 years, a quarter century, of doing this. And um, when I started, I was building software in, let me see if I can find, continuing on the company that I developed software with. Um, let's see if I can find some. So back when I started, paint, you know, that was my, oh, something like that was my everyday working environment. Um, and I worked with a platform called Thoroughbred Basic. So it was, I mean, it was a terminal window inside of Windows 95, but it was still a terminal and it looked like this, right? So I was writing basic code in an editor, um, building systems in, and they were text-based systems, capturing forms and data and all sorts, for travel reservations. So if you went on a holiday with Wallace Arnold, you would be using the systems we were building. So you'd be phoning the call center and being uh, sold on your tour, and we're looking up reservations and availability and all sorts. So that's how I started, right? Printing on massive old line printers, printing reports, booking reports and scheduling reports, everything on old line printers, and working with marketing databases in Oracle Forms. So then when I was doing modern stuff, I was working with Oracle and PLSQL and building um, data input forms for marketing so they could do things. And, you know, but again, continually trying to improve my skill set. Um, Working with PHP for the first time, getting the opportunity to build the company's actual website was a great honor. Um, Never used PHP, built up a website, built up their entire, um, worked with their marketing department and their graphics, and built on a site that was at the time really, really proud of, right? It was my first real commercial website and it was a lot of fun to build. And then making mistakes and overcharging credit cards. £20,000 of credit cards. I know I've mentioned the story before on the stream. Um, and the things I learned from that, you know. Um, when you have a boss that, looking back years later on, I now respect more and understand more from back then. When he didn't shout at me, he didn't start getting panicky and like, this is terrible, you're fired, etc. He was like, okay, how do we fix it? Let's focus on the fix. So those things have guided me, and really changed me as a developer, um, and using them for good or bad, um, references was is important. So yeah, so I want to I want to open up Discord soon. Why's the event gone away? Why has the event gone away? That's not really what should have happened there, is it? Voice channel, waiting room, 25th anniversary. Start time. No, I didn't change anything. It just decided to go away. Well, that's great, Discord. Well done. Well, it has a start time. It doesn't have a schedule. It just has a start time, doesn't it? Voice channel, waiting room, 25th anniversary. Start time, 7:15. Does not repeat. Jump in. Let's talk about software. That must be in the future. Yeah, it doesn't have an ending time. So start event. Yeah, so it should put it as a joinable thing. So that should give you the join link. If you're interested in jumping in, there's no need to if you don't want us to drop in chat. But yeah. So I'm gonna leave code up on the screen. We can still talk about Liquid Sky or current projects or whatever, but the idea is just be able to chat about software challenges and other fun things. In the meantime, I will start up Liquid Sky because I think it's worth having something up on screen. And if there's questions, thoughts, opinions, as always, I'm open to them. I'm not going to sit here for several hours and just lament over a career, but it's a good time to offer the chance to talk and chat about it. So I will open it up. You know, what have your careers look like? Where did you start? Where do you think you are now compared to where you were at the beginning of your career? Do you have questions or thoughts or opinions on on how it's going and other such things? Because I'd like to use this stream more as an opportunity to talk to people who have a variety of experience. We don't all have the same experience. We don't all come from the same places. We don't all think the same. And I think that's another great thing about software development. Those different opinions and different views as to how to build the software or why you're building the software can really meld together and produce really cool things. Okay, so Delta, there you go. Okay, you're the first, so let's get this tested. How you doing? Good. So let's make sure. Can you talk again? Is Delta audible on the stream is the question. Okay. That's why, yeah, Discord isn't coming through on the stream, so I'm just going to get that set up. I figured I'd struggle with that. It's the one thing you can't really configure too far ahead. Okay, can you talk again?
One more time.
Okay, that should come through on the stream.
You guys hear that?
Heard. Nice and clear?
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Corey says, started as a CS student and now figuring out how to help devs write codes and 22 years later. Nice. That, I think that's a fun thing to be doing as an, I mean, what's your role? What's the title? Whether you're a tech evangelist or whatever you become, I think we all should be helping devs write code, right, as well. And it's a useful side effect of the experience. So Delta, you come from a different background, right?
Yeah, it was basically a career restart of a career restart. So started in chemical engineering and then got that degree and then couldn't really get hired. So took an MBA, still couldn't get hired. And then the computer science degree almost immediately.
Yeah.
It's getting jobs.
So were you looking at programming from I need a job and I've got to find an industry, a career that I can actually find a job in, or were you looking at it because you enjoyed doing it?
I guess like when I took programming in school, I was really good at it. There was a course that was basically a bird course, but I would have had one of the higher marks in the class at like 96 with almost no effort. And
right.
That was not usual for me. So I knew I suspected I had some skill in it, but yeah, it was definitely more coming from I want a good job and I know I can probably do this. I had no idea how hard it was to be a programmer, but
right. Hello, Mr. Anhorn. How you doing?
Hey, Ganor.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
I was going to say my first job was a business analyst, same as you. So yeah, and I was VBA, so similar language as well.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So when I began, I know we were talking about this yesterday, so this is gonna be a repeat for you, unfortunately. But I was hired as a business analyst, and really the role started going out. So it was an internal product that we're building, but the role started going out to the different offices, to the different groups, and they'd made a request for a feature, and it was really dig into what they did now and why we should make a change to improve the system for them and why they felt it was necessary. Talk to them about what they were doing, understand what they were doing to the point where I could maybe recommend a different path or I could educate them as to different options available to them, and then really dig into why I was going to do the change. Then go back and document, here's what they want to change, here's what we will change to achieve this thing. And then I was the one that would go and make the changes and then deliver the changes to them over the next several weeks, go through testing and whatnot. It was quite a useful start, and I think it's something that we don't, as developers, often get to do these days, is to actually talk to the people using our software and understand the actual needs of the users. We just kind of assume that someone who's telling us what to do has asked those questions already for us. So we don't do that analysis part in the same way. And I think that gave me a good start to the entire journey. Yeah.
What was Agile or maybe XP was out then? I don't think Agile was, right? Or were you even aware of those practices?
I wasn't aware of them. I know Agile wasn't, because Agile's like a couple of years after as a concept. I think XP was kind of a thing, but it's not something, again, working in business basic. It's not, those practices just weren't a thing. The developers I was working with came from old school development practices. They were very much, I have a requirement, hand it down, get it done, sort of we weren't really a team. We were just independently, working on stuff.
Of your stuff, would you think fits kind of into agile? Like the agile of today would be fine with that behavior. Either like was there something like Jira to track tickets? Was there?
No. So the way it worked, my work went is my boss had a set of forms. When a user asked for something, he used internal mail to mail them a form that they had to fill out and explain why they wanted to change something and what they wanted to change. Then I'd read that, and then I'd go and sit with them and ask the questions. And I'd make some notes, and then I'd go back and I'd fill out another form, which would basically tell the story of what I was about to do, down to as much technical detail as necessary. And then he'd agree it. He'd say, "Yep, that sounds like a good change." I'd go make the changes. I'd then write up another form to explain what I tested about that. And he'd agree on that and sign off on that. And then I'd deliver another document, which was a release plan, which was like, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do this for release. I'd fill in that and sign that off again. And then he'd basically create a folder for every single project like that. Everything was paper. So if you think about it, it's kind of like old school Jira, I suppose, to some extent. But yeah, that was all paper.
Kind of weird because agile was a reaction to a reaction, right? Like they started this waterfall thing, and then agile was to counter that. But if you were never doing waterfall to begin with, did you actually need agile at all, right?
Yeah. Phil Shamble says, my first job, I got tasks from a manager which were loosely specified, but then the sales guy showed up and tried to push his ideas because his ideas just got rejected. No paperwork at all. Yeah, and that still bites us today, right? When we do that sort of stuff, when we just completely remove all process. The funny thing was about that paperwork process is I went through a 2-year college course on programming. It wasn't programming. It was, here's Microsoft Office, here's Microsoft Word. Oh, by the way, we'll sprinkle some Object Pascal and Delphi in there for you to keep you amused. Hi, Phil Schnabel, by the way. Hi, Trap. Hi, Tentic. How you doing? And so I went through this 2-year course, and they had this process of you had to write up what you were going to do in great detail before you did it, then do it, and then write up what worked and what didn't afterwards, right? Which obviously now that's kind of amusing to me because I'm now like, oh, I had to retrospect over what went right and what went wrong. Now I appreciate that process. But back then I was like, but I just want to do the thing. And I fought against the paperwork, and I hated doing the paperwork, so I never did the paperwork. So 2 weeks before the end of the 2-year course, the tutor came to me and said, write up the bare minimum for these 12 projects, what you were going to do and what you did, which I thought was dumb anyway, but he's like, just write them up bare minimum, because your coursework is more than enough to bring up your grade to a really high level, right? Because again, I think I'm the same as probably most of the people in this room, in that I kind of found the programming thing in schools and stuff pretty simple to do, like easy to pick up and run with. Because just do the bare minimum paperwork, and you'll pass with flying colors. You'll be fine. I was like, cool, 2-week holiday, bye, and walked away, because that certificate that I was going to get from that course wasn't going to necessarily get me a job. I'd done all the work. I knew how to do the work. It wasn't going to get me anything. It wasn't going to open any doors for me. That certificate was only really valid if I was going to university. But I'd already been told by that point, by my mum, that I can't support you anymore. You've got to find a job. So I knew I couldn't go on to higher education. So there was no benefit in me busting myself for 2 weeks just to get a piece of paper that said I can do the stuff I can do. So I walked away. And then the first job I walked into, the first day is like, here's a piece of paper, describe what you're going to do. I'm like, are you serious? like it was real. I fought against it for 2 years, and there is actually a process in there. So that bit me hard. But yeah,
That process seems made up now just because like it doesn't exist anymore, right?
but if you think
There-
about it, variations of that process, and like Trap said, like there's lots of random styles of development and then different processes. And as I said the other day, we as humans continue to try and find process in everything we do, right? We continue to say, this is broken, let's put process around it. Um, and so what's I say? No one writes anything down and no one knows what should be done. I've got a funny thing about that in a second. But if you look at the way we do development today, if we look at some tools like Jira, what we're doing is we're writing down what we're asking the customer what the requirements are. They write up the story. All right, that is that initial request from the user. Here's what I want. We then go through planning and grooming to refine what we're going to do. We miss that step of we don't document anything there. And then we do the work and then we retrospect on it afterwards. So we're still doing something similar in concept, just different, and we put different labels on it. And again, we call it a different process. The goal for improving processes.
Done. I've read it.
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned paperwork and writing things down. So there was a recommendation after the whole CrowdStrike thing. I can't remember who it was, but the recommendation is that companies should practice using pens and paper. So when the computers all go away, I'm trying to find the article.
Yeah, I will say the goal of the that whole line thing where he's talking about how to move the bottleneck to the front, I thought was really interesting in that book. But
yeah, I need to make sure I bring the YouTube chat.
convinced to write more paperwork. I know in like there's tribal knowledge that maybe that tackles like just things that you wouldn't know unless you had worked at the place for a while.
Yeah.
Like sometimes table column names are wrong. Like
Right.
you're like maybe you call I don't know. They could just be subtly off, but like you're talking about two separate things and one thing actually means the other. I've seen that before. I don't know how to abstract the concept, but yeah. Way to know that it's different is tribal knowledge, and you don't want to change it because the risk of making a database change is huge. So
yeah. So now we've got some other people in the chat, by the way, in the stream. So again, all I'm doing today is maybe some code if we need to, but this general stream is more about. So maybe I should move into just chatting potentially, but the stream is, I've been doing this for a while. I'd like to hear stories, chat about software development in general. I'm open. The Discord is open if you want to drop into the voice channel. It is there if you want to chat like Dota. So I've just learned that Discord events disappear after about 10 minutes. They just disappear, which is a completely useless feature if an event is ongoing. It's awesome. I wonder if I make it part of the chat. Sorry, I'm just having a moment of what if I make it the event chat as the channel? Will it keep it open because we're in the chat? 25th anniversary stream.
talking about no one writes anything down. Phil Snable's comment a little while ago. If like getting ideas to something you can implement, I think that's where that's most applicable. Like, someone in marketing or sales or product or something has an idea or a feature. How do you get that into something that a dev can implement and it's not just like you're implementing air?
Yeah. Okay, no start event. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I think the for everyone's reference, I think a Discord event, I set it to use the waiting room, but you actually need to set it into the event. Um, it'll keep it active. But anyway, sorry about that. American spies have to be trained to stand on both legs evenly. Apparently, Americans have a habit to lean on one leg. I can see that. I do. I join for the internet. I can't. No worries, Mojo. Appreciate it. I can be as a user when I use AI to improve how I work.
See those user stories go back and forth between dev and product, and yeah,
Yeah.
try each blaming each other for it not being something that's being implemented. Really.
Yeah. So again, I think I think one of the things we forget is that the team is more than just the developers. It's more than just the product. It's more than just the QA. The team is all those things working together properly, right? And it gets forgotten so quickly, even by those people. Is it raining up by? Yes, it is raining up here. Not much right now, but it is raining.
In Canada as well.
Yeah. And we forget that the team consists of all the component pieces of the team. And we do it all the time. We just kind of, I think tribal is the word, right? We become, oh, well, it's them and us. We kind of do it as human beings, even if it's detrimental. And that's where we break down. And that's why we keep ending up with, oh, we need a new process. We need a new process because we start to we start to break up and you know, they didn't test it. They didn't write this. You know, assumptions become a challenge when you're planning software, because people don't speak or they don't say what they're thinking about what the thing is because they assume, like a QA person is scared to speak because the developer's talking about the technical aspects, and you know the QA doesn't want to assume they know more about the way the software works than the developer. That can cause problems. And so developing software is difficult, especially the bigger teams get, the more complex software gets. You know, back when I started, there was me developing software, and I didn't work on a team project. I just kind of worked alongside and did my work, and my boss did his work, and we both contributed to the system. And if we had conflicting code, we'd resolve it before source control. We actually had directories that our code was in, and then when we were ready for it to go to somewhere else, we promoted it. And then if there was other features in play, we had to test all the other features based upon the test plans of each system, of each thing, and verify everything was still working. I'm glad I'm starting in a small team on the newest project. So that's the point, Temtic. You are just starting your professional journey, right? Or you just, have you started it now, or are you about to start next week?
The start of the month too.
Yeah.
Right. October
yeah,
1st.
true. You start Monday. Yeah. So congratulations, by the way. Nice. It's oh, for that first job, by the way, I had to travel. I had to um do 4 hours of commuting for 35 miles away from being 35 miles away from home. Actually, was 2 hours each way of a commute every day, which which is quite challenging on public transport.
Yeah. On regular travel, that'd be like half an hour, right? If you just were
Yeah.
driving without traffic.
Yeah. It's probably the closest there is by coincidence, though. Yeah.
far as like QA not knowing as much as devs do about the application,
Hmm.
I would almost like, because they don't have my viewpoint as a dev, but
Hmm.
there are things that there are things that QA knows about the app that I've developed that I would have no idea because I've never worked in that part of the code base, right? So
Yeah.
I would have a very detailed knowledge of certain things, like things I built. But
Hmm.
if it's something that's never changed or barely ever, they would understand the behavior better than me.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a misconception on their part.
Yeah, it is. But and it's a thing to realize, right? But add. I'm going to keep talking because this just get recorded anyway. But um, the the reality is that the different perspectives and different viewpoints on um, on the software, whether it be from a code understanding or a usability understanding, because a product manager or product owner may have gone and actually spent time with a client. They've seen them use it. They can relay that knowledge if they've paid attention to it. They understand why this is a pain or why this is necessary for a customer. Um, and the developer has an intimate understanding with how things work, but doesn't always make them um, um, know everything. So yeah, America can easily end up in a different state when you don't really leave your country to find a job. And countries are sometimes even smaller than states. Yeah, Europe's a little bit more available. I never heard of QA people being shy. All QA folks I've worked with were pretty confident in their knowledge and responsibility. So I've worked with now both ends of the spectrum. I didn't know where they existed. QA people should know the system because they should understand what they're testing, and the implications for making changes to those pieces. I don't think that's a problem.
I've seen both too, I think.
Yeah.
So
Um, I had one QA that I worked with, and he was, nope, I'm going to break this. Um, what about this? And he'd ask all those questions, and it's maybe that spoiled me. Um, yeah, fintech. Yeah, I can imagine there's more of a demand on chasing that, but it doesn't mean that it shouldn't matter anywhere else, right? We talk about quality, we talk about um, changing things, and yeah, um, the only way you're going to keep an eye on quality is if everyone cares about what they're doing. And I know that QA can come across as aggressive, or not necessarily aggressive, but very difficult. But it's their job, um, especially if they take it seriously. So if you take software as it is my job to develop the best product I can for the customer to make their lives easier, right? I do hold on to a true belief, and I still hold it to today, that we can change people's lives. And it might sound arrogant, it might sound like hyperbolic, I suppose, but the reality is, if you can say my software helps that person do their work quickly, um, and their life is easier because they're stressing less over getting their actual job done, you've changed that life, right? So it, it is something to remember, and something to hold on to, that what you do has a consequence to somebody else, good or bad, and to keep that in focus. And QA has a similar job in that if they let the quality drop, if they say, "Oh yeah, we can just let that go," and they don't pay attention to it, they're the they gatekeep that software, and they sign off on it and say, "Yes, we agree, this is good." So if they take it seriously as developers take it seriously, it's a good workflow. But when uh, QAs are scared um, to ask or to push back, then that's not really healthy.
has QA changed over the years? Corey's comment makes me wonder because he talks about proper QA, which I don't know what he means by that, but
Apex, thank you very much for the gift sub. Thank you to Temptic as well. Thank you. Appreciate that. Um, I mean, for me, yeah, QA now to me um, does rely a little bit more on automation to do their job. Um, they don't dig in, or at least the QAs I've experienced in the last 10 years don't dig in as much as they used to. They don't involve themselves in conversations as much as used to. We certainly do change people's lives and at scale. That's why I get pissed when devs don't consider UX. Wasting people's time because you've had a bad dot, so UX can have serious pyramiding effects. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's a whole different kind of stream. I'm not sure Twitch can afford to be gifting subs. Had someone's terrible error messaging waste over a week one of my devs' time recently. Ugh. Yeah, that's not. But I think um,
there more focus on testing now that has maybe lessened the need for QA? Like, were there more bugs in the software after it was produced, maybe back 10 years ago or 15?
I mean, coming back around to the process, if you slack off the process, bugs will appear quickly because, well, just look at this, right? The amount of things I have to do. That's Dota, by the way, Apex. Um, in the direct event link. If you're interested in joining the chat, there is the event there. I don't think there's more bugs or less bugs. I think it's just we try and do more with less a lot. And we try and do it quickly. And if we don't have those things in place to protect us, I actually have to do a school run. Joys of being a parent. I have a high schooler now, so the school run is walk out to the bus. I get a bit of a pass on that one.
Just with better testing, you can end up with QA not finding much on each pass through of the entire application. So, and then all of a sudden you need fewer QA people, maybe.
I would say that
That's my thought.
there should be a good balance of QA. I think to Corey's point, right, the kind of the engineering roles, it blends a little bit now. I don't know, because I think that every company I've been to has challenges, right, with the delivery of software. Whether I go back to the beginning, the challenges were it was a very rigid process. It didn't have much. You couldn't change things quickly in that process because it had to be documented. The process broke down the moment you didn't write something down, right? Because then changes were lost, and so even a little bug fix had to come with all that documentation that I was talking about before. So you had to be rigid to protect the process, and cracks showed very quickly. And I go forward to different organizations, and they struggle with, oh, we need to implement Agile, we need to implement Jira, which are not the same thing. And it's an understanding of that process, and then they try and fit other things that they do now into that process, so the process doesn't quite work, or it breaks a little bit. And so in general, keeping an eye on understanding when you need to change to make better process, to make better software, I think is really key. So QA is just kind of like the last line of defense, and good QA is able to to communicate and push back and do all those things, and we don't. But we do constantly try and push past the difficult things in the name of getting things done quickly. So I'm not sure if it's changed. I think every company is going to have, the good things and the bad things. I know my classmates say testing, but testing is important in my opinion. There's been occasions where testing failed to build and makes you realize you forgot to run the test and you brought something. But as a development team, keeping an eye on the fact that those tests exist, those tests need tests need maintenance as much as the regular code. You need to continually evaluate their need. You need to continually make sure they're doing the right things for the right reasons, and they're not just giving you a green check mark. That's a development team challenge, and it's one that often gets forgotten, especially in an environment that is prone to here's more work, here's more work, here's more work, get it done, get it done, get it done. And we, I kept saying the word last week. I said it last night on the Discord chat we had last night. Pragmatism. We think we're being pragmatic by just getting stuff done, or we it's the only word that I know of to hold on to, and I don't know of any better words to describe what I'm saying. But we justify, oh well, we've got to get the software out there quickly. We'll just do this now, and we'll come back to this later, because then we can produce the thing we're being asked to produce, and we can get it out there.
I find Temtic's comment kind of funny because I had a PR that wasn't reviewed because the tests were failing. Because it shows up right on our PR review. So there was some failed tests, and he just said your tests are failing, and that was the review comment. And we have test coverage there as well, right? So
but again, that's on the developers to make sure that that's doing that. It's on the developers to make sure that that test is failing or passing for the right reasons, and maintain those things as well to keep that process working. And oftentimes it's those sorts of things that go quickly when someone's like, oh, we need to get this feature to production, or we need to do this, and we're like, it's going to take us weeks to sort these things out, so we'll just discard them for now. And we let ourselves do that. Maybe you don't, maybe the team you work with doesn't, but it does happen a lot more than you'd like to believe. Where we don't stand up and say, no, that's wrong, we can't do that, we need to go and do this first. To move faster, we need to move slowly right now.
Our build pipeline builds the entire app and then runs the tests. So you would see like failed build for us. So
we recently adding functional tests on top of our unit tests, which has helped to catch issues. Right, because unit tests only test the unit, and the functional will test more. And you get more integration level tests. So that's why realistically, the entire testing gamut should be applied to all software. It's just the time consumption. Unit tests are quicker. Contract tests. Interesting. Unit tests are quicker to write, and you go up to integration tests, you've got a whole lot more infrastructure to consider. You've got another thing to consider is, does it look the same way as it does in production? Is it actually a true representation? Are there differences in the way it goes to production that mean that you're not really testing the same things? So, it's the dev team's responsibility to understand where the holes are. Wow, I've already hit 100 messages apparently, according to Restream. Oh, the YouTube chat keeps signing me out as well. So apparently YouTube with DuckDuckGo does not work very well. Joy.
With acceptance tests, it's important if an acceptance test fails and a unit test hadn't, that you go back and write the unit test that you're missing. because you want to catch things at the unit test level, not the acceptance test or functional test.
Yeah.
I will say I don't really like the term functional. Like I would call it either customer test or acceptance test. I think they're all the same thing.
Right. Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out the YouTube chat thing because it's driving me crazy.
So-
I don't understand anything. So go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen acceptance tests fail and catch stuff that unit tests didn't, but that's not the ideal case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you want that caught as soon as the change is made that makes it fail. So which is a unit test. The unit test will give you feedback in like under or whatever 3-4 seconds. Where your acceptance test you might be running once a day and take hours, so maybe minutes in a good case.
But it, back on that point, it is something that is worth keeping. You have to keep up with. You have to understand. Is it passing again? Because is it passing because it's just doesn't do what you think it's doing? Is it passing for the right reasons? Those are things that developers test code has to be maintained just as much as the regular code has to be maintained. If you update the regular code styles on patterns, you should look at your other test patterns, etc. Are they the same? Are they catching? Are they keeping up, etc. Class A relies on Class B, which is a string templating engine. You can write unit tests for A, mot B, but until you write a functional test for A and B, you could be missing a path. You could. Yeah. Well, to me, an integration test is anything that tests real behavior. I get why that would be a functional test. It's like you're kind of going up the stack and trying to test the components. But the further up the stack you go, the more complex the dependencies get. So an integration test to me would be like an API endpoint that says save this thing, saves this thing in the database. An API endpoint that says get this thing or delete this thing, whatever, does exactly what it's expecting. So it's an integration test of the components. So it tests that everything's set up right to be able to achieve that. So I can see why the differentiation there.
I guess I had a pretty big discussion on like the customer of each test suite. So like end-to-end tests, the people who care about end-to-end tests are what does it work mean is really what we were tackling. And to a business person, does it work is answered by the acceptance test, right? Like, oh, I can configure the widget, I can use the feature, that sort of thing. Where to a developer, it works is answered by unit tests or integration tests or some combination of like the developer wants more detail. And I think when the customer style tests fail, you're not looking at those as your feedback mechanism for why it failed. You want to go to unit tests or integration test, some lower level test that doesn't take like 10 minutes to finish, that gives you more of an error report, right? Really the difference for the different levels of tests is so that you catch everything before it hits end to end, and then it's just like, well, I don't know what happened.
Yeah. I mean, there's no hard and fast rules as to how to write software. There's no hard and fast rules as to what you have to do, other than have confidence in your code base, right? So if like in the Liquid Sky situation, which is the only reference I have right now that I can publicly talk about, right? My confidence in the software is increased by some of my unit testing, but more often than not, my comfort with the patterns that I've got in place mean that I can verify it very quickly, and I can do a quick test and essentially an integration test, a manual integration test, I suppose. And I have confidence in that. More so, I have confidence that I'm not putting this to production anytime soon, and therefore I do know that I need to go through and review the unit tests. I do know I need to go through and consider what it looks like to do integration testing. Can I tell that story so that I can be confident? Now, am I going to test an integration test between planning and view? No, because that's again, that relies on Kafka. I can mock those inputs. I don't need to do an integration test to that level. If the service is available, I have no expectation of it failing. So, but it's my confidence in the system overall, right? And that's what matters the most is if you keep seeing problems in the software delivery, where are you seeing problems? How do you address them? Do you write some extra tests? Because throwing tests at it, again, if you've got a bunch of developers that are capable of writing effective tests, then putting some extra tests in there might help you. But if you've got a bunch of developers you're telling to write tests, but they really don't like doing it, or they don't do it as part of their frequent process, you've then got to spend time enforcing those practices, and you've got to spend time validating them. So as a team, you have to agree upon and evolve what is your ever improve, hopefully forever improving process for introducing more and more quality into your software. And I agree, Apex, that having more coverage over things is going to it's going to catch cases that aren't easily caught by just a unit test. So
kinds of tests. I tend to agree with the pyramid more and more, the testing pyramid of unit integration and end to end, even though I would call each layer differently.
Right. And that sometimes that's what you need, evidence, right? You need to say, look, if we have this, it will help us catch this sort of regression, and the business agrees. Because the one thing we all have to remember is when we're working for somebody else, they only pay our salary with what we actually produce, more than likely, right? Either directly or inadvertently, right? If it's an internal software that supports your team and they're selling things or something, or they're like in my first case, it was I was writing internal reservation software that allowed people to book holidays. That the holidays, the problem was the business saw the holidays as the product. The reservation system was a necessary evil. And we were not seen as an important component of the business. But without us, they'd ever have to do paper and pen reservations and do all the whole, figuring out availability, etc., out of books, etc. So it was a necessary component of the overall system. And that's the challenge. As a developer, you can't just say, oh, it's broken, we need to fix it, we need to fix it, we need to fix it. Because given the choice of you crying, we need to fix it, we need to fix it, versus we have this tangible piece of code that needs to be written and adds a new feature, they're going to pick the new feature every time. So if you are in the scenario where you need to do certain things, but you can't, but the business won't let you, the best thing you can do is put together some actual evidence as to why this is broken, what steps you'll take, and coming back to the documentation, Anna, what steps you'll take and how it will solve the problems and how it will improve things going forward. Because there's always an argument for going quicker from a business perspective.
Say feature work for me has always been more interesting than maintenance work. So
that's true
from a developer point of view, you want to do features.
Yeah. So I've not met many developers that want to do bug fixing and support stuff. But it's a necessary part of the role. You have to accept that at some point you're going to have to figure things out. But again, that's why you're incentivized to write better code and to be able to find problems quicker in your code. Yeah, measurements, leadership loves them crunchy metrics. Yeah, they do. because it's something they can hold on to, they can visualize, they can report on, they can share and put actual, like if you say, oh, we made the code faster, there's no measurement of that, right? There's nothing to show how did you make it faster, why is it faster, why did it need to be faster. But if you put a number on that, it'll get snapped up and broadcast. Oh, things are happening 50% faster now, right? Numbers help us kind of put a picture on it ourselves. So for
Weird
anyone
to me
joining,
that.
sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
as I was going to say, for anyone joining the stream, if you are curious as to what this is, it's an anniversary special community stream. If you're interested in joining the chat, you're more than welcome to join the Discord. We're talking about stuff like this. If you have questions, thoughts, opinions on career in software development or how you do things, feel free. We've improved the software, which means we can process 20% more work. Yeah, it's a number, and that will get snapped up, and management will love that. Yeah. Sorry, Doctor, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just went to take
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say the number they care the most about is how long does it take to get to market. Like I have an idea from that point to it's in a customer's hand is really the time you care about. It's working, I think, is a key. Not I got it into their hands, but it was 60% functional or something.
Yeah, for certain. Customers are difficult things. You need the customers. If you're in the business of selling software, you need the customers. You need users. But you got to be careful you don't let the tail wag the dog, right? To quote that. Did I see that earlier on, or am I just? Yeah. So listening to your customers and understanding their needs is one thing, but you will notice that customers will often tell you something they need because they've dreamt up a requirement. Doesn't mean you should listen to that one customer, especially if you've got a large customer base. A customer doesn't always know what they need specifically. Like if they're saying, "Oh, I need this screen. It needs to do this. It needs to do this. It needs to do this." It is something you should dig deeper into. It is something you should understand. Then evaluate. If one customer is asking for it and you have 20 customers, and 19 customers not going to use that feature, in which case it's a lot of time and money spent on something that didn't need to be done. Is that one customer paying 20 times more? In which case, is it valuable to the business, and do you need to expose it to the other 19 customers? So the business needs to measure those things. But from a development perspective, you also need to be able to say, is this the right way? Should we do it this way? Just because it's outlined in one way doesn't mean it can't be pushed back on and some better ideas come. You had an ideas meeting yesterday, and a few of yours had the most support. Nice. Did yours involve the delete key?
His meeting is an interesting idea. I hate to say it, just because it's so easy to have an idea and then have it not be fleshed out enough to implement it, or I can easily brainstorm more ideas than I could ever implement on any kind of software. So it's almost like, how do you pick out the one you want, and then how do you flesh that out is the hard part.
Yeah. No easy answer on that one, by the way. I think it's telling about your development team. If they are thinking about the software in that way. If your development team's coming up with ideas and suggesting things, it means they care more. They care about what they're building. They're not just getting on with the job. So I think it's a good measure. And again, that's another reason for if you're in a role where you actually have no care about what you're building. It is just a thing. Then maybe it's time to find something else to do. I think you should care. I think it shows when development teams care. I think it shows in the software.
I was thinking about my music app I'm building on this same topic, and like, so my big dream, I guess, for it is to make it easier to discover music. But I realized lately that's kind of the big dream. I can't actually go out and build that idea, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think what I want to implement is just a search button that then maps the artist on a map. That would be a good first page for that. And then I started thinking after that on other pages I could make, but you have to think so low level and not your dream, which is hard to do.
So dreaming and then figuring out how you get there. Like we talked about this last night, didn't we? About the tangible pieces, attainable. Sorry, not tangible. Attainable pieces, where you might dream about this big thing, but then how do you break it up into bite-sized chunks so you can actually achieve something and achieve something and achieve something and build forward? This platform, if it gets to the point where it gets in front of actual people who would use it, when they start to use it, they're going to find problems. They're going to find, oh, it doesn't do this. Why doesn't it do this? What does this do? And it's understanding how to take that and adapt it rather than shooting towards my end goal and delivering what I think is a perfect piece of software. Delivering enough that I'm willing to change is going to be key.
Have you built out the actual ticketing system once it hits the devs, or is it mostly planning items right now that's in this?
Right now it's planning items, but it is actually funny you asked that because the last couple of days I've been thinking about how far do I take this and what direction do I head? And I think I'm at that point where it might be worthwhile doing the story component of it, just because I think it will help demonstrate the actual ideas in flow. I was thinking about this yesterday, the last couple of days, building that out. So,
for the dev ticketing, it would be neat if you took a planning item and that was like the title of the dev's sprint or something.
Right.
And then they would make tickets based on that title.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you would take update UI overlays for consistency, and then for the next 2 weeks, they'd be making tickets based on that. So that naturally kind of fits into developer task. It kind of forces them down developer tasks versus feature stories.
Yeah. So yeah, it is something I've considered. Something my company did well, to be honest. They also care a lot about their clients, and they made this very clear, and they tried to see if it had the same mindset, which is nice. So the one thing there, Temtic, and I'm not trying to be skeptical. I'm not trying to pull down the mood there. A lot of companies say they care about their clients. As you go through the development, that'll tell you about in what way they care about their clients. Do they care about the product that they're delivering to the clients, or do they care about the clients getting what the clients want? So again, if you build a product that has users, you always care about the users because you want more users. You want more people to be buying the thing that you're producing. So it's understand where that care is. Do they care about, do you as a developer get to say, that's a bad idea, I don't think we should do this, or hey, why are we doing this? What problem does this solve? And they say, oh yeah, let me tell you about this. And they talk to you and they say, oh, actually that's a good point. No, we shouldn't do this. We'll hold off. If they're willing to do that, then they truly care about their clients, and not just about the fact that clients are paying them. I've seen both, but most companies will say, we care about the clients. It's an easy thing to say. Because it's generally true. They care about the clients. They care about more clients. So yeah, not trying to be negative on that perspective. It's just understanding from a developer perspective. why they care. I'm scared of asking this with a shoddy connection right now, but I wanted to ask about how to go about large data model changes. Large data model changes is the sole reason I haven't got 100% buy-in on refactoring our code instead of rewrite. I think clients have money, and boy, do we like money. I mean, it's kind of a useful thing to have, right? How to go about large data model changes. That is definitely
Separate that question. I separate that question into the code versus the database, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Database change is terrifying. Code change is less terrifying, but maybe that's just me. There are environments where they're both terrifying, I guess. So.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's well, the unfortunate chances you don't, after some level of maths, you don't really make DB changes of large scale. I'm not entirely sure I would say you don't. You can do it, but the problem is that again, you need to make sure that you have a clear plan as to how you're going to do certain things. And the best sorry, I'm just reading that back before I should have not looked at the screen then. The best way is coming up with a solid plan as to how to migrate. And that is going to start in 3 minutes, by the way, for those that are, if you are not subscribed or you have Twitch Turbo, it will be a 2-minute ad. I couldn't even convince them by saying we will rewrite the entire app next time there are changes to data models. The answer is yes. You can't just keep rewriting the system, and I get that your system overall is not very complicated, except the one big chunk of your system. I think you can make data model changes if you break up the code. You can still use the same backing database. Just the individual components of it that talk to different parts of that database could actually be broken out and refactored without changing the data model. Data model refactoring, if you organize the code correctly, can happen after the fact. You could actually create new tables, and then this component of the system could now be adapted to use this new data. You can write migration scripts to pull the data out and keep the relationships intact. But it's a really solid understanding of how that data is actually broken down in the data tables. If it's a one-to-one and you do have different tables, then maybe it's a little simpler, but I don't believe it is from what I know of your system.
For refactoring databases, you'd want to get comfortable with it, and I'm just not at that point. So to me, it's terrifying, right? Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. I would,
if I'd done it a lot, then yeah, it's totally doable to refactor your database. Yeah, I guess I'd have to be in an environment where where they're totally cool with that and do it all the time, and then I could learn. Right, would be the ideal rather than just starting from scratch.
Yeah, but you also I mean, in this instance, you can learn through doing. You just got to make sure you take off manageable pieces. I found refactoring and changes to the data model are not the main pain point. The big headache I see is migration and data keeping in sync between two systems. Yes.
That refactor in the database layer, the point where both are being written to, and you're only using one of them for sure is it seems like it to me.
And it's scary, right? It is scary, but I don't even want to think about how often I've said this in the last 10 days or so. You cannot be afraid of your systems. The more afraid you are, the more afraid you'll become. You have to get over the fear. You have to take big steps sometimes to be confident of moving forward. And the challenge is you can't just. I did an engine analogy today. If I open up the engine if I open up the hood of my car right this second and I start pulling parts out my engine, I'm not going to have an engine. I'm certainly not going to be able to put an engine back together. What I've got to do is understand the pieces that I'm removing, why they matter to the engine, and why I'm taking them out. And then if I'm replacing the turbo on my engine, which parts do I need to remove to fix the turbo? Which parts need to be replaced? Which parts can be modified to be more cooperative with the new turbo? And now I can put a new turbo in and put the parts back and have a working engine again. You've got to be careful. You don't just go in and start throwing stuff around, because you're not going to have an engine, right? That's the key to refactoring the system, and that's the key to the data, is don't do too much in one piece, but come up with a solid plan that can be executed as to how you get there. And from a business perspective, um, uh, um, why does it benefit them? How does it benefit them? What things can you do to go faster after doing this thing? I don't know if you need help on a Honda engine. Worked in that industry for 7 years. I need a Ford engine. My brother has a Honda engine, but he's in the UK. He's got a little 2002 Civic Type R up on jacks right now, which is disappointing him. I think part of the issue here is that all the liquids in the system need to be drained and put back in the same place so that when you run the engine, it works. Nice extension of the analogy. Right. But I need to understand where they are. I need to understand why they're necessary, right? Yeah, you said the thing. You need to be confident, you know the liquid types, where they go, how to extract them without damage and put them back into new spaces. Right. It's about education. Yeah. The one that didn't come to the States, yeah.
I feel like that analogy breaks down though for databases, because like there's periods where you're writing to two data sources, right? But you're only reading from, like, the way you structure the writes and reads between that refactor is weird, if you know what I mean.
Depending on your strategy. Right?
Yeah, I
To
guess.
move away from the engine analogy, because it gets a little thin. But once we go into the differences between data and actual model, but the reality is you have to understand what you're going to do and how you're going to tackle it, and the implications of the actions you take, right? So if you're going to say, okay, we're gonna write to this store and read from this store, or we're going to use transforms to make it automatically put the data in the read database, or maybe we're not going to do it that way. Maybe we're just going to say, okay, we're going to make all the models, we're going to split at the code level, talk to the exact same table from these different pieces, which could introduce new problems. It could introduce locking issues, potentially, depending on how those pieces are used. So you've got to understand those implications. But then, how do you do that is a strategy. It's a plan. It's here's what we're going to do. Here's why we're going to do it. Here's what it will help us do. Primarily in that case, if you're just refactoring the code and making it point to the same table, what you're saying is we're just making some more composable pieces of the code that we can put tests around and have more confidence in, so we can change them. There's not really an immediate business effect on that, other than if a bug comes in, you've got somewhere you can test it and validate it and put it through. So the first validations of those things are going to be, the proof is in the pudding, right?
I think what I'm thinking of is when you're making a database change like that, the first thing you would do is write to something that you don't even use, right? So you would be writing to two tables. You would be still using the old one, and then the new one you would just write to it but never use it. And then eventually you would write and read to it but still use the old one, but then compare the values or something and be like, oh, okay, well, it's working the same. And then until you got confident, then you'd probably switch it over.
Yeah.
I haven't done many of them, so I suspect I'm missing a lot.
Mm-hmm. So, but I think I wrote down, so we had things like we had to write down kind of this training thing. We had to write down the things that I can do to help achieve the goals that we set out. And the two things I wrote down were take bold steps and lead by example. basically, to be able to do things, I have to stand up and say, no, we need to do these things, and here's how we're going to do them. But I also then have to be willing to stand by and do the same things that I'm asking everyone else to do. So I have to lead them with my example and show that I'm not scared to do it and that I'm confident in doing those things. Mr. Jones, hello, how are you doing? Nice. That was a classy addition today. All parts are changed. No transmission fluid on hand though. Why is it oil red? It's funny. I'm about to start trying to tinker with a Mazda. I need to do it. We've had a Mazda sit there for too long, so I'm about to start tinkering with that this upcoming month. So I'm going to start learning some mechanical stuff myself.
Staff, would you rather? Maybe the answer is both here. In the retros, you would suggest a improvement, or would you rather suggest improvements throughout the week or something, and then have the devs actually buy in and say we need to do whatever X thing the staff engineer was proposing? Do you know what I mean? Or is it more like, you're the staff, as a staff engineer, you're charged with building something and you have to convince the devs that this is a good idea? Like the difference between getting consensus, or do you really want to take the time to get the 5 engineers or 4 or whatever? Like, it can be really hard to get 4 developers to agree on anything, really.
It can be, yeah. So my approach to this is, I have some ideas. I have some ideas on how to achieve some of these things. And what I've done so far is I've actually asked one team of more experienced developers to kind of do some of the sample stuff. And from there, so they've actually made a change to the code as part of a bug fix, actually following standards that we already have in place, just actually following the standards, and then use what they've done to build on top of and say, look, here's how we do this as a global thing. Here's the global effort. So I can't do it alone. Yeah, to Apex's point. And I'll come back to the other question in a minute, Mojo. It's my job to kind of try and get them on task, right? To make sure that they're focused on improving the code. It's their job to embrace doing that and be confident, and then me to support them in doing that. From a retrospective perspective, I would hope to see where were their pain points, where did they struggle, could they do this, why couldn't they do this, what support do I need to give them, do I need to help kind of lay down some better practices, are there things that we've hit that I need to go and look at and see if I can solve for them. Again, teamwork.
An example actually that's concrete and is not work. So that lean poker event I went to, the first 2 or 3 groups they did it with weren't strong in testing. So they actually took out the testing frameworks. They said, we don't need testing and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then when my group went in, it's a bunch of agile coaches or people very passionate about TDD, who are very skilled at it. And we took an hour even, or it was almost 2 hours for us, to parse the input, to add a test suite, like all of this like work that's just burned time.
Yeah.
And then got a lot out of our testing because we could make changes. Our team never broke in prod, which one team did, and you could see how bad it was.
Yeah.
So like, it's an example of, one group of developers probably taking you in a wrong direction. Like, and as a staff engineer, you'd want them to do testing, right? But are you really going to get buy-in from those devs?
Well, so to be able to get buy-in, so normally when it comes to testing, the argument is we don't have time. We don't have enough
And the
time to
exact
do it.
argument in this situation, right? Lean
So,
poker, you only have 8 hours.
so one of my challenges, and again, take bold steps, is I'm going to, once we've got a structure in place that I can say we can work to this, we need to do this, is I need to go to my boss and my boss's boss and get buy-in from up above and accept that some things will go slower. Some things will not go quickly for a little while, but we need to implement these practices and you need to support it. If you're not willing to support it, you're going to get what you get. And no amount of frustration or energy from me is going to make the difference. I need to sell it to the up above to say, give the developers the okay to say this might take a little longer. I'm not saying slow down completely. I'm not saying stop working. I'm just saying stories for a couple of sprints here or there may take a little longer, but we are going to give you insights into why. We are going to tell you this is actually addressing a technical debt issue. My overall plan is for the developers to actually highlight technical debt, and if they can't comfortably attack technical debt at that point, they should document it and highlight it so I can keep a running track of the areas of the application the developers are more scared of. And again, metrics and visualization. Then I can go to the management and say, hey, this is the scary parts of the application. This is the parts we have more fear around. And over time, you basically could get a heat map of the more scary components, and then we can take more drastic steps towards those things. Maybe it's more staff engineers take on, more senior engineers take on the harder parts and do a refactoring effort, and we just accept a bit of slowdown here or there, but in the support of getting the other developers up and running. So supporting the other developers to know that they don't have to do this with they don't have to do this with no support from anybody else. They don't have to do this as part of getting their other job done. Because every time you ask a developer, let's get some code done, let's get some code done. Oh, could you do it really well? But let's get some more code done. Oh, could you do this thing? Right, context switch stuff as well. They're just going to go to the quickest possible thing because they're just going to try and achieve what they've been asked to achieve. And in that case, those developers that didn't have the unit testing experience in your poker thing, they just did the thing they knew and tried just getting things done quickly. Sometimes that can actually work. Sometimes rapid iteration and fixing does work to get the product, but it doesn't create sustainable code. So that'll be their practice. But
Very interested to see a TDD or a team that could TDD if they felt like it, go against a team that decides to not do any testing at all. Like, what is the difference in that lean poker thing?
yeah,
Does the team that's not testing, do they actually get things out faster? I don't know. And do they actually like make improvements quicker, or but they have bugs that could really hurt their, like, I wonder how it would play out really.
if I had to bet on that, I would say that the team that doesn't do TDD is going to have more code that's actually it might not actually solve some problems. Yeah, I think Trap and One Line are kind of the opinion. There's way too. I mean, because again, you're not getting the same developers, right? You're not measuring how they approach the software. There's a lot of other moving parts in there, but I get the general idea that you're saying, and but if I had to guess, I would actually say if you did do that, there'd be a lot more. There'd be a lot less code in the TDD piece. Because I think it solved the problems and focus on the problems only, whereas the team that doesn't is more likely to be, of that.
There'd actually be more code in the testing projects, but I think it would be test code.
Well, overall
Right.
code, but not more code.
Yeah.
Code, yeah. I think.
Yeah, I think the production code would be smaller, but the total amount of code would be greater, which is kind of funny.
But again, I think to One Line and Trap's point, it's kind of impossible to test purely. And I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm assuming because not the same developers, you don't know what they do, how they tackle it. So there's a lot more moving components. What are you doing, dog? Oh, that's the way you were curled up. Okay. It's funny, these two curl up under my feet every day now, right? So they won't let me do the standing desk thing. They refuse to, they get panicked if I do the standing desk thing. They curl up under my feet. The moment that my wife and daughter come home, one of them likes to be in here, but the other one doesn't like being in here with the other one. So they become anti-social to each other once other people are around. Hello, bud. You okay? No? No two people or groups are the same. Same with economics. It's impossible to do traditional scientific testing. Comfort in the process, personalities of each member of the team, experiences. Okay, so yeah, I figured that would be. And Mojo had another time zone bug.
Yeah, I think Lean Poker would be a good testing ground for this type of thing, though. I will say that. So I realize people don't know what Lean Poker is, but yeah.
So the Lean Poker thing is the
poker bots that you're creating and racing against each other. I wonder if I could get you a link.
Yeah.
Mostly marketing. I wish they had a page that was the actual event.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I copy pasted it, the event ID and stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's all manner of challenges doing what we do. There's all manner of. But again, we do tend to, as humans, try and get to the result.
I pasted one in chat that's probably a little bit more informative. So it's a specific tournament. It's just an example tournament, but you can see. Yeah. You clicked on it like one set of dots.
Right.
It would bring you to a game. And then you would see them, like if you click the play button, you'll see them playing a hand. And those are all the hands they played. So there's probably like 1,000 hands in there. You're going to see some terrible play here, but taking different actions.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
It would be neat to do a research project where you ran TDD, like a bunch of TDD teams against non-TDD, and actually say, I know maybe academia would be interested in it. I don't know.
Yeah, I do see. I see like the curiosity. I'm similarly curious, but I see the also the. It would be hard to really evaluate based on. You'd have to understand the experiences of all the people involved. You'd have to understand how they approach software development, and understand. And each one of us is going to approach software from a very different perspective. So it's like, how do you measure it and have confidence in the outcome that it was TDD that made the massive difference, or the marked difference, right? So
yeah. Biggest thing is they're not really real projects when you build that poker bot, right? So
yeah.
So you can't really take that.
Bot, you're trying to develop a bot that follows the rules of poker. So I suppose to that point, you have got the same requirement. It's just
identical software and identical requirements. Yes.
Just how your bot the measurement is how does your bot evaluate the cards and evaluate the outcomes and provide the do I fold or do I proceed? So, well, but to anything, it's another example of like developers don't all develop the same. Developers aren't all made equal. Their experiences, their past has changed who they are and how they develop software. If you've worked in a lot of organizations that are very much get it done, 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 and then you go to an organization that's like, hey, let's do the right thing. Let's take our time. Here's a job to do. it's going to take a long time for that developer who has just worked in a process of just getting stuff knocked out as quickly as they can to all of a sudden be like, you mean I can take my time and do this differently? Right? It's going to affect how they approach the software, how they write the code. And they might look like complete rock stars in a team that's normally like, let's take a day to think about it. And they're like, I've done 5 stories today. So yeah, experience is all different, and our interpretation of the issues as well. There was one. So we did one exercise. I'm not going to go into the details of the exercises because I mean, it was a training course provided, but we did one exercise, and basically, the first time we did it, everyone failed because we all tried to do exactly that. We tried to go fast, and the one lady was like, she's like, we would have done better by doing nothing. And that was the point of the exercise. It's like, we actually would have done better by not doing anything. We would have achieved more because by doing something, we made a bigger mess and created more problems. And now we have someone who doesn't like what they got. And yeah. And the focus was how did we feel about the exercise, and obviously we all felt like demoralized because we'd let the customer down or whatever. If you work on a trading desk, you simply don't have time for TDD, let alone a bunch of other things.
That comment extremely surprises me. I will say that.
Dave
Farley, who runs the continuous delivery channel, that's all about TDD. That's his background, is high-speed trading. Yeah. And then I know another guy on here on Twitch who is into high-speed trading.
Yeah.
He doesn't TDD, but the reason he doesn't TDD is because he said he spent 90% plus of his time on testing when he was writing that trading day software, or when he was a market maker. He said all of his time was on testing, and it was a tremendous expense they paid. But the downside of not doing it is just terrible. Yeah. So,
but coming back onto something I said earlier on, right? Trap is, it's not, every team doesn't have to do TDD. Every team doesn't have to follow what another team says is good. You can learn from other teams, you can adjust and adapt. Ultimately, what matters is that you have the confidence in the software that you're writing, that it is of a high enough quality that it's going to have as few bugs as possible. You can't guarantee no bugs. Bugs will happen. There's no, I've never seen bug-free software. That sounds like it was confrontational. It wasn't. So
I think I was being that word either, but maybe.
Again, different experiences, different perspectives, different, and text chat is not really a stunning place for having deep conversations about things, right? But it's, how do we develop software? What do we care about the most? And ultimately, what we care about the most is delivering something that works effectively. I don't think even someone who develops a piece of software we consider to be terrible, they didn't start out trying to develop a piece of software to be terrible. They tried to solve a problem, and the only tools they have available is churning on the task, building the software, keep adding features, etc. If a piece of software takes off, and it happens all the time, right? You develop something to try and you develop a proof of concept and you show it to someone, and they run off and use it. And we talked about this again last night, right? It's dangerous because that code doesn't have the controls. It doesn't have the structure of the code you would maybe normally write, but you've developed it to prove the concept, and someone's taken it and run with it and developed a product out of it. Now, other developers are working in it, and they just keep adding, because the practices and principles of the software are in the software. They keep adding on the software. A good development team can stop and make the right changes and keep improving the quality of the software. And what matters more is not, do we have 1,000 unit tests covering this piece of code? It's, do we have confidence in the actual software? Are we comfortable maintaining the software and working in it? And that's what matters more than anything else. And again, experience. If you've used a lot of TDD, if you've used a lot of integration testing, if you've used a lot of other sorts of testing, they are tools you can use to improve your confidence that is the case. And that's what matters.
I think there's not many companies that work in TDD, basically, because it's extremely hard to have your code base that good. And I don't think I'd even put it on my resume because I feel like it's not going to be applicable. But knowing how to do it is quite helpful. So yeah,
it's a tool in your belt.
Yeah. Even if it's one that isn't necessarily used, like realizing that in testing is important. It's important. Like the trading example guy I used, he doesn't do TDD, but he spends all his time on testing. So
yeah. And again, for that confidence reason, right? You want confidence that what you deliver, especially with trading, you want confidence that what you deliver doesn't just lose $1 million here or there randomly, right? Or do some crazy behavior stuff. And that's again what's important. And if you look at testing, unit testing, there's different styles of unit testing. There's different theories on how you should unit test. If you look at my unit tests, they don't look like your unit tests, right? But again, it's built for my confidence, not for your confidence. If we were working together, those tests would probably look like a meld of the two, because I give on one thing and you give on another, and we'd agree upon a path that was productive and constructive. And that's what we should be doing, right? We shouldn't be just doing, oh, I'm going to do my way and you do your way in the same code base. That's dangerous, because then a third person comes along that doesn't do unit testing, and now we end up with unit tests that look like an amalgamation of the two styles because they've just kind of pieced together tests from other places. HFT and just trading in different spaces.
I wondered,
yeah. Used to work in HFT and testing. That was much different from non-HFT trading. But I assume that you would validate in some way, shape. But I'm not saying TDD. I'm saying, like, I'm sure that you would validate and test in a variety of ways. For the same reasons, right? The quality of what you're putting out, the confidence in what it's doing. Wow, it's almost been 2 hours of a stream already. That's insane. I thought streams went by quickly normally.
Noticed the time lately as well. I took the day off, so
nice.
I'm allowed to be on here at 9:50.
Nice. I found some of those things funny. The facts things. Working machine learning now and work with lots of random trading desks. Often they aren't devs, they are quants or strats. They often have to make changes on the fly during the day before business start. So do you have a quality assurance path though? Do you have some sort of testing or automation that validates that rules aren't broken when they do those changes? They are the tests. So they're making changes, and it's up to them to agree that they've done it right. I bet that's a scary world to be in. I bet that's a high stress. If there's consequences, right? There's going to be stress from that.
Yeah, I subscribe to Seeking Alpha, which is a website, and they have a quant formula that is supposed to help you pick stocks. I did not find it very helpful, but anyways, seeing what that stuff is doing is interesting to me. And I've like asked ChatGPT what quants do and stuff, but
yeah,
never really gone much farther.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my jobs throughout my career. I worked in travel reservations. I moved to working for a company that actually used the exact same source code base as the previous company, but went in a different direction with it. So I was still working in Business Basic when I started my next job, but I was developing hotel reservations and insurance systems with the same software base. So all the same patterns were in the code and all the same behaviors, and some of the core stuff was still in there, but it was all very different because it was solving different problems or semi-different problems. And they also stretched out into things like airport parking. So when you're going on your holidays and you want to go to a parking lot and get a bus to the airport, etc., doing that reservation software there. So a lot of my experience, my early experience comes from that. And then I came to the US and I started working with service, field service. So I was doing mobile dev for field service software for people going doing pest control and lawn care and applications of chemicals to properties. And then I went into private aircraft research. I was back to doing internal tooling and building software to support transmitting large amounts of data. So the risks go up, the risks go down, right? When you're doing internal software like that, yeah, there's people that are going to get angry because there is a product, but there's no risk to someone's, you know, um, you're not going to cost someone millions of dollars all of a sudden, or you're not going to cost someone losing a contract with a business because they didn't apply the right things, or they get, you know, in trouble with the federal government because they've applied the wrong chemicals to the wrong places, those sorts of things. So, different challenges. So I've not had to work in any high stress environments, which I think is a good thing. But stress is still present. And now I'm back in field service. The process is appealing to real devs, but finding someone with necessary skill sets to do both things and build a delivery system that can deliver changes fast, not trivial. Lots of his pets, not cattle.
Chat GPT, pets not cattle. No other people.
Yeah. Huh. Real devs. I like how you quoted that as well. Real devs. Yeah, like our different experiences. I find it. This is why I like streaming. I like streaming. I like talking to you guys because you all have different backgrounds. You all have different experiences. You all have different approaches to software, and I think that's when we combine those things. When we reflect on other people's. This is just indicative of a team is made up of very different people. You might have one person who is a little quieter and doesn't like tackling problems. You might have one person that is a bit more, hey, this is the way it is. You might have one person who's a little bit less that way, but is they have their speciality, and getting the best out of those dev teams and figuring out how we work together and figuring out where our commonalities are. But then when you put a group of people like that together and then you say, hey, you need to work this way, building that trust and that relationship in the team and making and allowing them to work to be effective is pretty much where my passion lies. I think, like, I want to develop software, but I also want to help other people develop good software. And
Market maker stuff, I know they get into FPGAs a lot. So you have to be an EE.
When I worked on training systems, it wasn't really stressful. Really, sometimes your bugs make money, sometimes it lose money. We used to joke we were in the green at the end of them. Green. Huh. Interesting. Yeah. Huh. The next ad comes up. I'm going to take a quick break, but yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I wanted to do today. Just kind of chat, go through this, this sort of stuff, this is exactly what I wanted to talk about and just kind of reflect a little bit. And yeah, as for Liquid Sky, I think in the next couple of months, first I need a name, right? We need to stop calling it Liquid Sky. I understand that much. And I think I do need to move towards getting the other side of the stories started to figure that out, just so it can, even if it's only from a visualization perspective, like this is how it will work, and then I can turn off the feature when I need to get the planning focused on. But making it a usable tool, but also demonstrating the actual potential of it and figuring out what that looks like is probably going to be important. So those are the things I'm going to focus on. And as for a name, I'm not sure yet. Yeah, it's funny. I picked up from an FPGA perspective. I do actually have. So the Mister FPGA is built around the Intel D10 Nano board, which is a dev board, FPGA dev board, and the Mister is built around it. And I actually picked one up for, hey, I want to learn about FPGAs, and I never got into doing it because they fascinate me. The idea. I have to drop for work. As always, enjoy conversations. Apex, thank you very much for coming hanging out. Thank you for the gift sub. I really do appreciate it. And have a great day at work.
I have to go get food. I haven't eaten really. It's like
No
10
worries.
a.m.
No
All
worries.
right. I'm
Yep.
going to drop, I think.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming and
Later.
hanging out, though. I appreciate it.
Yeah. No
Take
problem.
care.
Later, everyone.
Bye. Okay, now it's going to start in 3 minutes anyway. It's bacon butty time. Ask AI for a name. I believe that Liquid Sky might have actually come from me typing random things in to something like that. I don't think it was AI generated, but it definitely comes from me like looking for that sort of combination thing, which is why it wasn't deliberate. Right. Hey, Magnetonics, how you doing? One day I'll have to sit down and watch it, just for the insight. But maybe we'll do a giveaway thing or something in the upcoming months to pick a name. Been eyeing the laserdisc for a while. That. Well, no, it's Happy Friday. Welcome in. Yeah. What games did I pick up recently? Don't think I picked up anything of interest, of really of interest recently. I'm just going to verify. And yeah, I completed that. Oh, I didn't complete my Gran Turismo collection, but I didn't have 2 and 6, so that I added them recently. Luigi's Mansion on the 3DS and God of War 2 on the PlayStation 2 were my recent additions to the collection. One day I will actually find some time to sit and stream some of the retro games. Thank you very much, Anatonics. Figured it's worth doing something. Because I think from I'm not trying to show off, by the way, with the whole 25th anniversary thing. All I'm trying to do there is say, hey, look, I've done this for a while. I'm happy to talk about things. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to talk to people coming in because we all have different experiences, right? We're on the beginning, we're further along. It's quite a journey, and I want to hear other people's journeys as well. It's not just I want to sit here talking the entire time. But that's terrible module. I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna do a BRB because the ad's about to start anyway, so that's a natural stopping point. I'm gonna take the few minutes. I'll be right back and carry on. So thank you. Okay. And I'm back. Sorry about that. My dog's nemesis, Rain. They're a breed that is known to not like getting wet. So so I mean, it was easy when we were chatting. As a retro fan, you might appreciate a tool I built recently to convert images to 6-full format. This 1970s format to print images on all printers. Huh. The only printer stuff I ever did was I had to figure out how to print reports to a new laser printer that we had in a new like reporting language. We had to build them from the basic system. So I had to go and learn. I got sent on a course to learn like printing stuff. Hey, Kenny, how you doing? Thank you very much for 9 months. Happy Friday to you too. But yeah, I got the I basically got handed a book on printer format and got to go home and read it and then go and do the course the next 2 days. That's the only time I've done anything involving printers. Just recall the baby Ken came out on TBD. Wow, yeah, it's 9 months, right? Well, TBD dev's already taken, so I suppose it would be kind of gamer. Joy. So yeah, anyone joining the stream, this is not a productive stream. I didn't want to just put it in just chatting because I do want to talk about code specifically and not just we're not just randomly talking about things. So it is dev related still. It's still open to questions about Liquid Sky, about projects, etc. So I'm not debating that. What are you? Okay, you're chewing a bone. Okay. So there's two projects. So the Liquid Sky is obviously my focus in the upcoming months, primarily. I do want to switch my focus a little bit because one of the things that I have realized is that, it is Friday, by the way. I should make sure I shout out another community stream later on today online. It's Friday streams, community days, and also a fantastic place to go and hang out and chat. I've been so focused on conversation, I haven't really thought about the shouts, but it does raise the thing. I do want to pivot for a couple of weeks, not now, but coming soon. I want to focus back on developers.stream. I want to make it so that when you join the chat, if you are a streamer and a developer, it will automatically shout you out. And it will also provide a link to a profile on developers.stream or page of your stream. So if you stream to YouTube and Twitch, it will bring them both up. I want to contribute to community conversations, but the majority of my mental bandwidth is focused on implementing Excel delimited file import utility. And there are topics I'd like to bring up, but I wouldn't be able to engage much. That's absolutely fine. One line. I appreciate you hanging out and being here as always, and just being a part of the stream in general is more than enough. Thank you. Bot dev, some bot dev. Leaning into using my bot to maybe build in some communications with the developers.stream site. I'm probably going to open that up on TBD Friends as a community contribution. That's the idea anyway. But the goal is that if you are a streamer and a developer streamer specifically, that if you come into the channel, it will shout you out. You're able to go off and log in and control the message that it gives on you. Hey, Radio Patrick. How's it going? How are you doing? Today is a nice, easy day for me. Streamer.bot. Huh? Ask I read how well this was going. He deactivated it after using this approach for a while. Which approach? Well, I'm not saying be able to put messages into other people's streams or to do that. I'm saying that your description of you, like how you describe your stream. No. I'm talking about the first time you join the stream, it will shout you out, "Hey, Canny's here. Canny's an awesome game developer and has developed a bot library for Godot, which is incredible." That sort of stuff, right? I want you to be able to control that message, but only the first time you join the stream, not every time you say something. It's actually a feature I had originally on the stream. I just have not enabled my bot. I mean, primarily because there's a lot of dev, but again, a lot of people on this channel, what you could do that with streamer.bot, I think. Right, but I'm linking it. So I actually have a domain that is a domain I own. I want to build the site to support that. A lot of the sites that I even mentioned on that link right now actually don't do what they used to do. Belly.io is now a collectible NFT experience. It used to be a website for tracking. Dog needs to try to go out. No worries. But yeah, so I've owned developers that stream for a long time. You're actually on there, Rambling Geek. But I want to make this an actual thing so that when you join the stream, it will shout you out with a link to your stream or to. No, because I've never put any effort into it. That's a GitHub page just randomly put together as a concept, and I never did anything with it. But I want to do something with it. That's probably my most valuable domain, by the way. Because I mean, you know, Canny, Rambling Geek, yourself, One Lion. There's a lot of streamers. Apex is in here, or wasn't here. Dota does stream from time to time, but I would like to be able to make sure that the community is. We can help promote the community more without having to make those deliberate shout outs all the time. Hello, dog. Do you want to come up and say hi? Okay. Hello. Hello. Hello, bud. No. No, we're not kissing. No. Hello, my friend. Hello. I apologize for this interruption, but Loki would like to say hello. Right, bud? You look up there. Look up there. Look. What's that? What's that? Whoop. You disaster dog. Well, now I've got two of them. I apologize for this interruption. I can't do very much about it. So, hello, buddy. Hello. Hello, friend. You okay? You okay? Hello, Taylor. Oh, now you want to come up as well? Taylor's now jealous. So, in general, I don't know how audible I am right this second. Okay, buddy, come on. Come on. Come on. Time to lay down. You got a cookie? You got a cookie? Come on. Sit. 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 Yes. Yes. Good boy. Yes, good girl. Okay, time to lay down. It's funny. My wife this morning was saying he was running around this morning. She's like, "Oh, are you gonna go stream?" And he was getting all excited. Don't think he knows what that means, but time to lay down, bud. Come on. So my apologies for that. Um, I wanna use developers.stream to do what I intended it to do originally when I bought the domain, is to help support the development community, allow people to shout each other out, eventually show live status up there, etc. So you can go and search for, hey, I want to find a C# developer, because discoverability is difficult, but also across the platform, right? So YouTube, etc. Be promoting that. I like to believe my dogs know what I do. Yeah, these two know when it's meeting time, because they like to go out at that point. So that is one of the projects I do want to do some effort, put some effort towards in the upcoming months. But I would be looking to do that as a community project more, well, developing the foundation of it, and then hopefully getting some contributions from others, to help promote um, promote that. And maybe I can use the platform for more. Maybe it can become just more than a directory of developers, streamers. But attainable goals, right? Attainable goals. As far as Liquid Sky goes, working on, obviously I've been focused on the status, the requirements is the current thing, right? Ready for planning, updating requirements. Obviously we got this piece working the other day, and then editing requirements is coming in this next set of changes. Being able to do that and achieve these things. So again, these would be stories unto themselves, not just requirements, and yeah, doing those things. So getting these built out and getting Liquid Sky more in a place, and then putting things like the ability to create stories. I think we need that. I just showed my CTO and product my AI chat proof of concept. They're pretty excited. Nice. Nice. Now, okay. So I went on a bit of a I seem to have had a lot of similar conversations the last couple of days. But proof of concept. Do you work in an environment where a proof of concept is just that, and it's a, by the way, here's what we could do, we just need to do all the planning and prep for it? Or is it, oh well, you've already done the work, therefore we can just use it? Yeah, in that it's just a proof of concept, more to get our CEO happy that we are at least looking at it. Yeah, because I've warned against proof of concepts. Like, don't demonstrate a proof of concept unless you have. I know you know this. I'm not. I'm just sharing the thought. Don't share a proof of concept unless you have a plan as to what needs to be done to make it into a real thing. And don't do just enough to show off a technology, because it might not solve all the problems that you're actually trying to solve with the proof of concept. Those sorts of concepts of being careful, because I've seen proof of concepts become products, and then they've got their own timeline and their own pace. It's looking promising. The RAG model does really good at summarizing a client's account data. Like, it can easily pull up specific applicants based on general questions. Nice. That's pretty cool. We gotta play with AI in here sometime. Like building the requirements out from a description might be an interesting challenge. A challenge to do. I don't think it's actually a challenge for an AI tool. I think it's pretty simple. Just how do we structure it and how do we build the right tool? Boom. Hey Napalm, how's it going? Yeah, doing the research gave me some ideas to hook into my personal life. Happy Friday. Welcome in. AI of all the things help keep you gainfully employed. Yeah, the business I work in has just done some AI implementations that actually seem like really valuable uses of the technology. Still scares a lot of people though, right? I want to do that. Yeah. I think it seems like a scary tool because of the scary uses some people have implemented. Yeah. So if you're joining the stream is about dev. Um, more than happy to talk about different topics in terms of software development, in terms of history, in terms of prices, issue on security, privacy data, compliance rate, especially in finance. I can see that. Just trying to use the yeah. Independently intelligibility is just a math. The issue with element security privacy data that clients raise, especially in finance. I think LLMs, AI in general, is one of those areas that I have not dedicated any mental bandwidth to truly digging into to understand how. Because I don't think I understand where it could apply to things I do right now. In this instance, I think I'm not sure it's not necessarily a stretch to say, hey, well, what if you typed in here roughly what you wanted and then it proposed these requirements? I don't think that's a stretch to do that. It's just learning the tooling to understand how to effectively get it to take this and guide a user as to what is going to help them build these requirements. I've seen tooling on Crisp. If I have a conversation on Crisp and I set the speaker to be the actual Crisp audio, I can turn it on to annotate. So it'll do the note taking for me. It will track who's talking. So the first time I tell it, oh, that's Bob. The next time you talk, Bob's going to get tracked in my conversation. It will also summarize if there's action items for me to do. It will pull them out of that conversation and say, by the way, you need to do this, this, and this. I can't turn that on at work because it's recording to uncontrolled servers. I'll do more research into AI once the fad phase is passed. It looks like companies are slowly starting to calm down about it and aren't putting AI in everything. Plus your toaster quite like they were a year ago. Like I think even AI is a very, very, very broad term over lots of different usages of something that I personally don't understand. enough about. But I think uses like that, like I've just described there, that's actually a practical usage because it could help. Hey, just type in what you want to do and we'll help you figure out the requirements as they need to be specified. That could help someone develop more flushed out requirements. So I ordered a coffee this morning and I forgot to change it. I saw tall and forgot tall is not big. So I have this little coffee. So I'm trying to make it last. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I was going to go here. I was just contemplating features that I might need and trying not to just add them in. One of the features was I need to clean this up. How do I delete things? LLM bot would be really useful on your dashboard to summarize or generate a cleaner requirement, or if you want to go deep scan images or whiteboard from meets and write down the requirements. Yeah, that's a fair point. If you could upload a whiteboard snapshot and have it kind of figure some things out for you, that could be time saving. Fan phase is starting to pass. Most of the people who were starry-eyed about it have largely had reality smack them in the face, at least in my circles. I feel like you need to understand it to still refer to it properly, though. And my old job, my boss kept saying we had this AI coaching system that could react to all this criteria and whatnot. It was just really a weirdly made state machine with a few extra conditional checks to make it adaptive in its output. AI about that, it's just the most complicated if-else block ever. But it to the outside user, the consumer, that it is artificial intelligence. It does look it does look the part. um, yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of good uses for technology. Um, like I said, the organizations I work for, they have put some serious effort into some things, and I can definitely see why it helps. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. So I'm interested. Um, if you're in chat and you are willing to share, what is your background? What got you into software development and into the where you are now? And what do you see? What are you most passionate about in software development? You went some machine learning stuff too, which was literally just statistics. There's nothing learning anything. It's comparing a curve to another curve and checking for outliers for pretty simple math. But that was machine learning, not super different from complex decision trees. Yeah, but we have a long history of doing that, right? We have a long. Did you bring the live chat for that? More than welcome to. The Discord is open if you want to chat and tell your story, where your passion lies, those sorts of things. I'd be interested to know. I'm genuinely interested to know what's brought you to where you are now. Napalm, high school, honestly, great teacher that got me interested in starting with a VB, and a friend who got me into web dev and making sites and GeoCities for bands and video games. Like, well, nice. I so in high school, I actually took uh, I did GCSEs in the UK, and it was the first year they offered a GSE, GCSE in IT, but it was an extracurricular. So it was for an hour after school every Wednesday or something like that. And um I basically, let me know when you're ready to chat, Mr. Anhorn, and I'll drag you in. I basically, the story of my life. I love doing the actual coursework. I love doing the actual coding, but come to written work, nope. I like doing the things. I do not like writing it up, right? And yeah, that was the first time a teacher actually referred to me as lazy. Because but I got a B. I got my highest grade in school in IT. I got a B, whereas I got C's and D's and everything else. So it's just somewhere I've always just felt comfortable with. But yeah, high school. Interested in computing since I was about 5 when I got the VIC-20 and I was playing around with the basic programming stuff there. That was look for exercise. Happy 25th. Well, Line, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the look. Thank you very much for coming hanging out. And if you're not back before I end the stream, I will be back. I will be in your stream later. So yeah, high school was interesting. And I kind of carried that pattern forward a little bit. You ready, Mr. Anhorn? Cool. Thank you in. Hello.
Hello.
There we go. Stream should hear you, I believe. I didn't change anything.
All right, good deal.
Nice.
Think everything's all set up?
Yep.
All right, good. It sounded right, but I don't know. Hearing yourself talk is a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I would say mine was more my getting right into it because I only have like 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
Let's see. So I went to school for mechanical engineer because I wanted to work more with my hands, and then found out that was way too much math. Like I could not pass calculus to save my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I retook it so much that I had to go to a nearby school to get it, and still couldn't pass it.
Yeah.
And then I got mono, like severe mono.
Oof.
And I couldn't get out of bed for like 3 weeks. And then when I could get out of bed, I couldn't do anything for more than like 20 minutes. And that's when I got into programming.
Right.
And I started on like a C-esque dialect game engine. It's like Beyond. I think it's still around, but I don't know if they still use whatever. I think they transitioned to JavaScript.
Right.
But it was crazy. And so my first thing was like video games, and then PHP and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I couldn't get into mechanical engineering, I dropped out of school there and then moved back home, and then went to the school there, which was computer information systems, which was more networking.
Yeah.
So I have I can set up a SharePoint server and set it up for a network, integrate AD and all that. So I had like a really good degree in that. And then my minor specialty was programming. But since I was only able to pull over some of my generals, and they didn't have a huge like programming whatever curriculum.
Yeah.
I did all the classes twice before I got all my generals done.
Okay.
So that was fun. But the classes were relatively big, considering what I hear from other schools. But the size of the school, it was probably like 20 people in the information systems.
Okay.
And it was like a wide range of people. Like usually they just say like males, but it was male, female.
Right.
But the school was relatively small. It was only like probably when school was in, it was like 1,200, 1,800.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But my advisor there started my second year when I was in the school, and he got me my first job even before I graduated, which was great. So I went down like to Minneapolis and interviewed with them, and they were doing Cold Fusion and just HTML.
Right.
But they were starting a transition into Java, and so that's where my Java career started. And then I did that for 7 years with
Gotcha.
Java and all that, and C# on the side.
Right.
But no, yeah, it's if I would have never gotten Mono, I probably would have eventually switched to something else. But I don't know if I would have switched to programming because I was out for like 8 months.
Yeah.
But the mono was so bad that it also gave me fibromyalgia on my left side.
Okay.
And every few years, I will just get like full numbness on my left side
Ooh.
from frying all the nerves during the mono.
Yeah.
So those were depressing times.
Mm-hmm.
But no, so I didn't really get into programming officially until I was like 23, 24.
Right.
And I was like, here are all these people. I was like, yeah, I started when I was 13. And I'm like, wow, I wonder what I would be like if I did start when I was 13. Because I dabbled in computers a lot, but I never like programmed them. And then when I found out like you can program computers, and I was like, wait. And then I was like, and it's like similar to what I was been doing with this like game engine. And I was like, wow. And so my first like website was PHP.
Mm-hmm.
And then my advisor in my second year teached a C# class using ASP.NET, which was great. And then when I started the second round of my schooling, I was like a teacher's assistant, and we built in the C# class. We built a video games using the XNA engine.
Nice.
And so I helped facilitate that. And he said that got a lot of like, instead of just like doing coursework, because it was like do C++ and then just do like to follow this book. It was more like we had the high level of like how to use C#, and then it was like the whole class was building the game engine.
Yeah.
And so that was fun. So we did like product management on that as well. And so it went through all of like using Agile, and then the whole class did like weekly stand-ups, but we did but we broke up the work into like different tasks and like different sections of the game engine. So that was like really fun to get that started. And from what until they canceled the like computer information systems like course at the university, they were still doing that for like 3-4 years after I left.
Right.
Which was pretty great, pretty cool to hear.
Yeah.
But
nice.
Yeah, so that was my like flush, like just pushed into it. But I don't know. I can't imagine like doing anything now other than that. But then now it's like I'm starting to shift back into like working more with my hands and getting a 3D printer and all of that, and then figuring out what to do with that. So it's coming full circle because I like messing around with my computer. I probably tear my servers apart like once every 6 months.
Yeah.
And then put them back together. So I still like doing that.
Yeah. I pick up. So I've got lots to say there. So, but I pick up woodworking and electronics and stuff like that. I have a lot of 3D printers, a lot of electronics, a lot of woodworking stuff. Because again, I like to do other things than just the coding thing. But I have always found it since. So I started college doing mechanical and electrical engineering because that fascinated me. Then I realized I was terrible at the math. So that story should sound familiar, right? And then I'm like, joy. And I've spoken to so many people who've gone the same direct route. Just this last couple of days as well, I've spoken to at least 3 developers that all started at mechanical or electrical, and then was like, no, I don't want to do this, and switched to programming. For me, it was the assembly, the robotics stuff that fascinated me the most. So I got like a qualification in robotics as part of the course. And that was the only thing I came out of a year of mechanical engineering and mechanical and electrical engineering with. Was I'd tinker with some assembly, I'd turn on some lights, that was fascinating. Then I'd use the same assembly to control a robotic arm, like one of the big old ones, like room size robotic arm.
Oh, that's cool.
And it fascinated me.
Yeah, that's crazy. That reminds me, because when I was in mechanical engineering, I was in there for at least 2 semesters. And we worked in the CAD software.
Yeah.
Oh, that was crazy. Because it wasn't like the stuff you just like retail. It was the enterprise ones that you get to play with. And so it was like a 15,000 per seat license software. And we were before it ramped up pretty quick. So you would build it in there. You would do like all of the like simulations in it. So even back then, like 10 years ago, you could still do like simulations on tensile strength of all of the everything. And then it's like you could program exactly what that metal was and then how it would behave. And then we also got to like machine them. And so we would send them to like another part of the school, and then they would take the CAD and then machine it. And then we get to play around with that. So that was pretty fun. That was like one of the things that I got to play with. It was nice.
Yeah. And coming back to your comment earlier about, I wonder what would have happened if I'd have actually been like actually focused on programming longer, because you didn't get into it until later. I've often wondered that myself. Like, it's not my story to tell, but if you ever go into Trap stream, you know, he has that like that passionate, energetic, like tinkering and childhood background, or young. I won't actually say childhood with a lot of confidence, but like if I was around people like him when I was younger, if I had a group of people that were interested in computing and not just playing a few games on consoles, because I did pick up the VIC-20. I did try basic programming and tinkering with basic programming every now and then from like the age of 5. If I'd have had more people around me that had got that same curiosity, would I have actually would I have been better? Would I be a better developer today? You know, would it have changed who I am? You know, so it does lead me to ask those questions. Sorry,
Oh,
Nivek Dev raided. Welcome in, Nivek. I hope you had a great stream. What were you up to? How's things going? Trap says, I didn't start development until a teen. My first PC of any sort was in the early 90s. Pretty much everyone I know had 8-bit micros. But you had people around that, like, if I had a community around me, if I had people that I knew that were also interested in this computing thing, you know, before the internet, before you could actually reach out and talk to other people like this, the streaming is so fascinating for this stuff. Like, yeah. Do retro before the retro. And I did read the conversation between Napalm and Radio and Radio Patrick, but yeah, I think we often programming. No worries, Napalm. It's just for fun, just for today. It's all good. It blots your message because of the words. I definitely wonder where I'd be if I had a community and spent more time in high school and at college actually making stuff instead of playing video games. I was just at home when I finally had access. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nivek, you were integrating NGRX signal store into an existing app. Nice. Nice. How are you finding the signal store stuff? I use it in this application, but I'm not sure I'm using it correctly. So it is definitely something that I'll be looking forward to seeing other people do.
NG is Angular, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I played around with it when it was JS, Angular JS.
Yeah.
And I liked it. It felt very nice. But then when they transitioned into the other one, the React just came out. And so then I switched to that.
Yeah.
Oh, talking about like calculus, which is funny because now that I actually find a reason to use it, like building a physics engine or more like programming related stuff, because you use surprising how much math you use when you're building a game engine. I could probably take calculus now. I went through the book that I found that I bought forever long ago because I never ever returned it. And I was like, wow, this actually makes sense now that I actually have an application to use it instead of just like, why do I have to learn this if I'm not going to use it?
Yeah.
Or whatever. I was like, yeah, once you find a reason to use something, it's a lot more easier, I feel, to learn it.
Application. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So reading back over the comments, so Trap, Okay, yeah. So you just have more drive, I suppose. But again, being around like this sort of community, like I do know that the other people I've talked to grew up in the 8-bit micro era, and they had people around them, and it kind of raises everybody up. You're challenging everyone, and so it's yeah, it's.
Yeah, I
But I've
don't.
wondered the same question. I've wondered the same thing as to would I be a better programmer if I'd have had more just general interest because I had more people around me helping, to answer those questions, uh, and figure problems out together. But
Yeah,
can't
now
change it.
that you state that, is like I don't think I've ever been into like the communities I've been have always been online. I don't think I've been around any
Yeah,
like I've come from North Dakota out in the middle of nowhere, 40 minutes to any civilization.
yeah,
The most people were in my class, and they were like, we were the largest class in the school, and it was like 20 people.
yeah,
The smallest one was like 4. It's
yeah.
like crazy to think that like sometimes you'll have like 800 people in your grade, and I'm like, wow, I had 20, and that was including the 3 cities around the school.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's crazy. I can't imagine them like that. Went overboard and collected every computer people didn't want. I took my bed out of my bedroom to make space for computers I collected. So I think that's why I started on electrical engineering as well, because I'd find electronics and take them apart, and like I'd end up with a lot of electronics I didn't know how to put back together, by the way, or build things out of. But I found it fascinating to understand these things, like the pieces that went into building them. So I actually had a lot of old TVs and stuff under my bed. But my bed was also 6 foot in the air, so I had a lot of space.
nice.
Um, I'm doing my first event sourcing materials view implementation for Cosmos. Ooh, that'd be cool to understand your learning points with that, Napalm. And then when I was asked, would you prefer being a PM or programmer after so many years of experience, or a mix of both? I mean, so many years in it. For me personally, I don't want to be a PM necessarily. I think what I've established is I want to be a developer, but in the same time, I want to enable teams to be better and be able to get to the problem and understand the problem and deliver better software by having better understanding and better focus. So I don't think I'd fit well as a PM necessarily. I do know how to ask the questions. I do know, how to figure out what people are asking versus what they need. But I think my passion is really in not necessarily defending programmers. It's more I want to enable programmers and developers to be able to say no, to be able to say we don't understand, and not feel that they have to just do something for the sake of it. So I think I don't know where that role is. Maybe in 10 years' time, my focus is on consultancy, and I'm just going around trying to do that exact thing, and helping teams be more productive. Yeah, I think if I was asked, do I want to be a PM or a programmer, I'd still want to be a programmer because I still think that I can build good software. So yeah, I decided to finally start building my own graphics engine recently. Now, I had to teach myself so much geometry I'd forgotten. But you've got application, and application often helps with understanding, right? And that's where I mean, it doesn't sound like I'm in I'm in good company, I would say. I think a lot of us learn by doing. Some people can read a book and understand something quite well, but I can't. I'm just an odd egg. I just a ton of focus and independent drive, and that's really admirable. That's impressive. It's easy to get started now. So many free online resources and communities like this one. Yeah, there's a lot more around there. That's why it frustrates me when young people ask what to do and where to start. I guess it's somewhat choice paralysis. Well, we also suffer from um I don't know how anybody else feels about this, but should. I was in stream the other day, and I was like, should is a horrible word because everyone has expectations on what you should do, and it's just experience. It's not like someone's doing it deliberately to be like telling people what to do, but they're trying to help. But everything's should. And then if you've got a bunch of people and one person saying you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, it can be overload at the same time. So it's learning to cut through the noise as well, I feel, and pick your own path. How do you feel about that, Mr. Anholm?
I was not listening.
Oh, good. I was like, when people are giving you advice, there's a lot of people saying you should do this and you should do this and you should do this. How do you feel? Do you feel that that's like there's more noise than there was now? So we've gone from
I think that comes with like experience as well. Like when I was probably younger, it's like you should do this, and I was like, all right, I'll do that. Like I would like read all the books that everyone stated we should read, and then going through and reading all the articles, and then writing all like the projects and all that. So I feel like was more impressionable.
yeah.
But once you get more experience, I feel like it's more like now you can filter through the shoulds. It's like if you're uh, like when I hear that now, it's more like, okay, I'll take that under advisement and I'll add it to like my giant backlog of other shoulds that everyone
Yeah.
tells me to do. And then I'll usually just go like filter through them and say like, well, okay, that makes sense or something like that. And then read more into it or whatever relating to it. But yeah, it's like, I don't think I go through and as much as I used to. More now, it's more, I feel like I can get what I need from it, but I don't have to like follow exactly what everyone does.
Yeah.
But it does annoy me when it now that I do have that experience, and when someone says telling somebody else they should do something a certain way, that kind of like annoys me because it's not you don't know what they've been through and if they should actually do it that way or follow that advice or follow TDD to the end. It's like, well, TDD is nice, and it's nice to see those like few examples of like how you do test driven development.
Yeah.
But then it's just more like you eventually, once you get the experience of like how testing, it's more like you should do testing, not that you should do it a certain way.
Yeah.
Scenario that I see. It's like you need it's more if they're giving you what is it like step by step, like you should do it this way. That I think is more. It's more cumbersome and it's more like it's detrimental because that now you're just following what everyone else does and you're following. It might not be standard, but if you're just getting started, it might be better to just do all of those shoulds so you get an idea of it. But if all you're doing it's kind of like tutorial hell. If you're just doing tutorials all the time, then you're just doing what everybody says you should be doing because they're all just tutorials. But tutorials they never get past beginner, and it's really hard to find anything intermediate and senior in a tutorial. So you kind of have to go your own way and then build your own thing. And I think that's like the big one that I hear a lot is like, you should introspect what you want to do and do that. Don't follow all the tutorials that come up.
Yeah.
But that's more specific. But I think that comes with experience as well. Because you don't know what you don't know. And so you just follow what everyone else says you should do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
absolutely.
But now we have so many resources. Now it's really hard to like get started. Because I feel like when I started, there were only like a handful of good resources for everything to do. And the internet wasn't as exploded. But now if I want to do front-end development, it's like, now you have 16 different front-end frameworks you can use. and you should use these ones because they're what everybody else uses. And then you might find that you actually like Svelte or whatever it is. Because I played with it when it first came out. I was like, this is interesting, but I could not do forms. And then it was like, well, nobody can do forms in Svelte. And I was like, wow. So like that is like what 80% of the internet is. It's forms. It's like if you can't do forms well, then I just dropped it. And then they heard that from the community. And then
Right.
from like now, it's like I think they really hammered out forms. And so like I might go back and see it in now.
Sure.
But that was like the big one. Is like no one likes doing React anymore. We're moving to like this framework that like says it's not a framework, it's a compiler. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? So those like fun things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just gonna jump in. Dan, thank you very much for this up. I know I said thank you in the chat, but thank you personally. More personally. Just reading back over there, I never understood this felt the should thing. You had a lot of expectations to do things as a kid, successful parents pushing me as the top of my class, etc. But I was always on my terms. Again, I think I'm just very independently minded. Yeah, I think a lot of people trying to get into this are looking for. I think we are in the world of there are easy answers out there sometimes, and I think that's one of the fears of letting developers run at AI stuff is that we'll end up with a bunch of code that's written but never understood, and that's a responsibility thing more than anything else. I think yeah, there's a lot of resources to go through. So then you're looking to people like myself, like you, especially streamers, right? If we're making streamers, we're making streams about software, and we look like we know what we're talking about. People are more willing to listen to us, and I've said it before. Like I've been on courses, I've met people who have written the books on things, and probably like 10 years ago now, I just kind of decided to stop listening to what they were telling me I should do and read between the lines and figure out what I liked. So to your point, Shranholm, the picking and choosing, it comes with a bit of experience, but it's knowing to pick and choose.
Mm-hmm. Yep. An interesting stat I recently learned is that before AI, like copilots, became like a big thing, the GitHub keeps like stats on like churn on code in their repository in GitHub in general. And it used to be that like 6 months you would see churn in code, like changes to it, like bug fixes and that to like a code base in general.
Yeah.
And now it's every 2 weeks. And they think it's because of the AI Copilot just has full reign of your repository, so it just randomly changes things to make it better per the AI. Right. And so now there's a lot more churn on like code that hasn't like been touched for 6 months before is now like touched every 2 weeks.
Oof.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing.
That is interesting. Ouch.
Yep.
Oh no, shocking. Nobody chatting in YouTube. I keep having to remember to open up YouTube because my restreams thing isn't working for connecting to YouTube today. So I have to keep remembering to open the YouTube chat. I'm worried, I'll miss something, but no. Yeah. YouTube for dev is not a stunning platform.
I don't think YouTube streaming in general is probably a good platform.
If you're a Gran Turismo streamer, it's the place to be.
Really?
Yeah,
Ooh.
they have a lot of active streams on Gran Turismo on YouTube. But
I don't know if I like watching people drive. I'd rather prefer driving myself. I used to be really into those.
I've enjoyed watching
games.
Yeah. My biggest problem is just going a little bit more personal here. I don't sleep very well, so I'm always tired. So if I sit there and I'm not doing anything while listening to the drone of an engine in a video game, and they're also just focusing on racing, so they're not talking or interacting with chat, I find myself falling asleep because I'm just listening to the nee of the engine.
I can see that. That does make me. Yeah, I think that's why I probably stopped, because now it started putting me to sleep, because I do
Yeah.
like the hum of it, and I was like, oh, that's probably why I
Yeah.
can't play anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I've got the racing wheel behind me here, and I've got the chair set up to play Gran Turismo. And after this stream, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Caspian, thank you very much. Appreciate it. If anybody has questions, thoughts, opinions on software development, on their history, their where they got to, how they got there, please share. It kind of I'm using this as a retrospective of sorts, and it's very interesting to hear people's paths and their stories. So another question for you. I know that you've got to go soon, haven't you? But what are you most passionate about, and what keeps you being a software developer?
It's it's probably all the disciplines you have to know, because I like doing something, but I also don't like just doing the same thing every day. And I think that's also how I keep my side projects fresh, is
Yeah.
that it is such a large, like, you have to know so much about everything when you're like building a business. And if it's a software focused business, you need to know like how the business runs, getting clients, marketing. And that's just what's funny is when I started digging into that, it's like the software is probably like 15% of your business. The
Yeah.
rest of it is like marketing, getting clients, support, and all of that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't like that. So that's probably why I also put it on the back burner. And I was like, I'm just going to build a game engine, and I'm thinking I'm just going to open source it and then sell support for it. And
Yeah.
so just build a way for them to like pull down this Pulumi file, run Pulumi up, and boom, you have a game engine.
Yeah.
I'm thinking going that route, and then I can just sell support for that, because then I can say like, well, $400, and you have me for like 3 hours a month
Yeah.
to ask me any questions and to like do technical support.
Yeah.
But the just like that you can build anything you think of and then deploy it, and then like the coding wise, the passion for it is just like I can build this. And then it's like, well, okay, how do I deploy it? Then I can go and look at that and then go down that rabbit hole for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then come out and it's like, know a little bit more. I know enough to do it. And then I can go back to my other project. And
Yeah.
so just being able to just to build it and not needing any like capital investment or physical investment. It's the passion of just building what I want to build,
Yeah.
but also just being able to like be like, okay, now I want to be like put my DevOps hat on, and then how would I deploy this, and like how would I make it as complicated a deployment or as simple a deployment? So like you start out really complicated, and it's like, are there tools out there that you can go and build that? So it's like the always learning is what I really like about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like the always learning a new thing that replaces the old thing. I don't like that. I don't like I've been through PHP, ASP.NET, ASP.NET Core, Angular, React, uh, Svelte. It's like you just go on. I think the only one I've never really tried was Vue, but I've only tried it a little bit because I was trying out one of the frameworks that are built on top of it, and I was like, oh, I don't like this. It's like, so it's also like the choice. You like if you don't like something, you can probably find something else that you do like, and if you don't like it, build it. It's like I don't know. It's just like the passion of like programming in general. I don't know. It
Yeah.
was so exciting when I found that I could just like I just need a text editor and the command line, and then I can build whatever I want. Like yeah, it's like it's very easy to get started, which is what's great about it. But it's like they always say like everyone's going to come and take your job, and it's like you do need a certain mindset
Mm-hmm.
and like drive to
Yeah.
program, but it is like anyone can get into it.
Yeah.
And what's nice is like if you're also late in your career and you're switching careers and you're switching to like programming, the my mom was able to pick up programming like a little bit. She like understands it, but I think the experience of like how she used to work in the service business or works in the service business and transitioning into that, she could probably do it very well. Which is like you'd be surprised that like I think anyone could easily transition it and probably get a job, because most of the time you're looking like, how do you talk to people, communicate and such, because programming is probably, I would say, is a smaller portion of it once you're later in your careers.
Yes. Yeah, I
So,
agree. Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know, I just like, I
Nice.
like the building part. Like I can
Yeah.
just like switch something up and like the next day build something completely different, or work in some completely different environment, or work in code spaces and then build everything in the cloud, and then pull something down locally and able to like do an AI RAG thing the next day, and then jump back into the front end and then the back end the next day. It's like you don't it, the ability to transition into just whatever you feel like at the time. And so I think that also helps with burnout. Like burnout, I think, comes up when you're doing something and it just becomes repetitive. If you're just doing the same thing for weeks on end,
Yeah.
that's whereas like side projects are great, because then you can like intersperse different things with that. And if you get tired of your side project, you can either try and integrate it into like something completely different, like how would I deploy it instead of like coding on it, or moving into like a different like aspect of the software development cycle.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, yeah.
Nice.
All right. So I probably have about 10 minutes left, so I'll be hanging out for that. But
Yeah, I was talking about command line and text editor. I don't know if you saw this at the beginning of the stream, but the thing I got up on the screen. So when I started work, this is from '87, but it's the same. It's actually the same software that I was building on 12 years later. Well, the same actual environment. But my day to day was working in something a little like this. That's how I started, and worked like that for 5 years. Well, actually more than 5 years, because I went on to get another job that did the same thing for another 2 years. So I've spent 7 years working in a basic environment like this.
oh,
And that was
that
my world.
yeah, my world was pretty much just Visual Studio and oh dang it, what do we use for Cold Fusion development? Well, no, we used NetBeans,
Yeah.
and so I feel like I missed like all of like the dark period of programming, and then it was like right when Ajax came out,
Yeah.
that was like when I started my career. And I
Yeah.
was like, I can't imagine like how did you call websites using the like HTTP XML request client? And I was like, I
Yeah.
looked at that and I was like, this is so verbose. Like it's like 30 lines just to make a REST call.
Yeah.
And now I can just call jQuery Ajax and get
Yeah.
data back from the server.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
popular.
It's like back in the days, like all these horror stories, and I'm like, I'm glad I got into programming when I did. I like to have gotten younger, but I would like how calloused would I have been?
So in this same environment, I wrote a full XML parser and
Wow.
producer. So I actually built essentially a SOAP web service communicating with a Unix backend to communicate with a .NET server. So I actually had a communications channel, and I would transmit XML messages. So I built SOAP essentially, using BASIC as well in the same environment.
I don't think I've ever gone below the like ASP.NET Core. Like I don't think I've really worked below that to like how would I build a raw server? Oh, I did build a WebSocket server, like very raw and like handling connections and that. But that is about as low as I gotten. I played a little bit with assembly and I was like, this ain't for me. I don't want to like
assembly. I'd love to play more with, but yeah. But
yeah.
going back to the chat a second. Raj, finally working on one project, tracking product process. Nice. Congrats. Nice to a focused project. That definitely helps, I think. Not monotonous. Yeah, Manoj. The fact that the development, like you said, Mr. Ranholm, the monotony leads to the burnout. Like once you start doing the same thing over and over and over again, the burnout comes quicker because you're just stuck and you don't see the way. And that is often burnout. And then Napalm, working medtech, so it gives me added purpose. The code I work on is helping others to live healthy, full lives. That's Hallmark, does it sound? It doesn't sound Hallmark. It's I actually had a conversation with someone today. And he was like, I work on software because I build good software and I get to show it off. I'm like, I like the honest opinion. Like, one of the things we like doing is sharing what we do with others. it's good to show it off. To say, look, this helps your life, this helps your job, right? I do take a lot of satisfaction from that. If I'm being honest, showing it off to people is kind of cool. And I wouldn't stream, obviously. If there's a little bit of that show off, right? To show things off. There's definitely some decent emulators out there for poking around with assembly environments without breaking anything, because you're overall reserved a bit. Well, yeah, there's I've often been the few YouTube channels I've watched on what's it called? Not 4086. NES. What's the CPU in the NES? I can't remember the name of the CPU, the assembler, but yeah. I've contemplated, could I create enough code to start up a little program on the NES and do that. I started with Classic ASP, DTS, predecessor to SSIS, SQL Server, so much easier. Yeah, Classic ASP. I worked in a bit of ASP with VB6 in one role. That was not fun.
Oh wow! All these words make no sense to me.
What's that?
All these words. 8086 emulator, Hercules. Yeah. Like, wow, I feel like I just have surface level knowledge on programming every time I see like all these acronyms. I was like, do I know as much as I should know? And I was like, I don't know. I know enough.
I do worry. I'm not. I know it. You know, if you look at kids these days, right? You see them using phones and iPads and whatnot all the time. Do they understand actually how the magic happens? You know, how the Roblox or the Minecraft actually gets to their screens? How many of them have the sort of passion or drive that we developed as we grew? Like, because it's all now commoditized. It's all right in front of them. I know there are some people that are interested in programming, but you know, building a website might be programming. They don't tech literacy on. Yeah, that's my concern. So in 15, 20 years, do we have actually a, you know, we're actually in the same place as the COBOL programmers are today, in that they are the rarity, but sooner than they got up to that, right? Where we are now, like, even as C# devs and React devs and all those sorts of things, we're like struggling to find people to pick it up and run with it. It's terrifying. My 94-year-old grandmother probably knows more about computers than the average team. It's a terrifying concept. Yeah, I mean, when my daughter was younger, I actually tried to introduce her to a bit of programming, just to see a bit of robotics. And I made sure that any technology she was interested in, I actually made sure that was available. So I have a lot of Lego and I have a lot of robotics stuff from Lego and 3D printers and stuff. And it was mainly just to make it available to her. So if she had any interest, she could tinker and understand. But she doesn't have the same drive that I did as a kid in that way. I think it does take a bit of an inquisitive mind, right, to do what we do. See, the interns I've interviewed, I've had students at Carnegie and Mellon who couldn't tell me the difference between a list and an array. She learned MS-DOS in 3 months. She understands what a file is.
A list and an array. There is no difference in C#. One just auto sizes, right? That's kind of the difference.
Yeah.
Under the hood, they're the same.
So,
but then again, I don't know.
AI is making.
I couldn't tell you in assembly what the difference between a vector and a hash table is. I know like what they are, but like how they work under the hood, I don't know.
But I don't.
All I know is that you get a faster lookup on one to the other. But if you're doing sequential reads, you want to. It's like I know enough, but like how it does it under the hood, whatever.
But the fact is, you know enough to go and look up how it works if you need to go and look it up and understand how it works, and you have the intelligence to go and dig into that if you need to do it. And I think that's a lot of software development is having and that's where seniority comes in, is you've had the experience of having to go and look something up. You might not remember it off the top of your head. You might not know it off the top of your head, but understanding how to go and look it up and having the right mindset as to understanding what you need to know and understanding what you don't need to know about any problem. So I don't worry about those sorts of things necessarily.
And I do
Unless
agree
the
agree
implementation.
with the comment. The AI, I think, is making people lazy. More developers, in that. That's why I'm afraid to move from Copilot, because Copilot is probably the worst of the AI copilots
Right.
because it doesn't like help you enough. But
Yeah.
I think the problem is once you get more advanced, you just have a really easy way to look up stuff. But I think that's the problem, is that that is looking up prior data.
Yeah.
And if you're not creating anything new and not feeding back into the AI, it's just like everyone's just going to be stagnant. It's just going to, there's going to be no innovation to it. It's just going to be reuse everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big problem with AI is now if you're learning to use it, then it's like you only know what the AI gives you,
Yeah.
but you don't know why the AI gave you it. And I think that's where it's going to get very
Yeah.
stagnant and unproductive.
Yeah.
But usually I just use it as a really advanced IntelliSense, and I try to keep it to just one line. If it starts giving me like 6 lines of whatever, then I escape out of that and I don't read it.
Yeah.
It's like I keep it to one line because it's easier to just digest.
Yeah. I don't think I have a hard limit. I think my usage of it, I unless I'm wrong, my usage is generally I look at the code that it's going to offer me and see if it matches closely to what I'm doing, and then I try and tinker with it a bit. But I don't. But like I said, I think it's kind of an advanced IntelliSense. That's how I use it. I don't use it to try and solve my problems unless it's something I don't know how to do, in which case I kind of use the commenting system to say, suggest how to do this. Now it gives me something to go and read up on or understand. But more often than not, it's giving me code that doesn't even exist. But again, I know what to go and look for. That's my saving grace, I suppose. Where some people are just going to rely heavily on it. Again, the laziness.
Mm-hmm.
Developers always been lazy. Gates would rather hire a lazy dev, as he used to say. I'd be interested to know if he ever rethought that opinion.
Well, I wonder if it wasn't so much like lazy and as that they're lazy. It's more like that they're lazy and that they figure out ways to automate the repetitive tasks so they can focus on the non-repetitive ones. And that's what I think by that quote. But then again, honestly, I don't know. That's back in the day. Maybe he did really want just like lazy devs.
Yeah, Manoj seems to think the same. But but again, taken out of context, that seems bad. But we try to solve problems. Right? It's not laziness. It's just we understand inefficiency in our process, and that's really what we're trying to target. It's like we know when we're being inefficient, and that's what I coming right back around to something I said earlier on. That's what I was talking about with when we just accept processes because it's harder to solve them than it is to just accept them as part of the process. Like, oh, we need to change how we deploy this. Well, we don't have enough time to do it. So rather than actually do it, we just kind of complain about it all the time. I used to deploy websites. Deploy production systems used to be copying files onto a server, copying it into a directory, repointing IIS, doing all that. There was tools that could do that, but it was harder to figure them out than it was to just keep doing that and then create a checklist of tests that we had to do by hand. We could have done some automated testing. So is having, as a development team, being able to say, no, we need to do this. Here's why we need to do this. And here's the benefit to the business. And that's the thing we often fail to represent is we fail to represent here's the value to the business, the long-term value for the shorter term cost to the business. And let us go slow. Let us go slow when we need so that we can go much, much faster in the future.
All right. I have one last thing, and then I'm going to drop off. The one thing I like about Cold Fusion is that you could just throw the files in the directory, and then your app's updated. I do like that.
Nice.
But then again, you can do that with PHP, Cold Fusion. It's like, yeah, I do like something that you can just drop in and it goes.
Yeah.
So,
Fun fact though, if you drop it in with PHP and you're running in Apache, it restarts Apache.
oh well, whatever. That's a feature.
Yeah, it's a feature that all your processes get killed instantly. So, yeah.
All right. Well,
Well,
it's been fun.
yep.
I will talk to you
Thank you for
later.
joining. Have a great day of work. Take care, man. Cool. Well, that was fun. I'm glad someone else got to drop in and have a chat. So, yeah, we've come a long way, but we haven't come too far. I think we still need to. My recent, I don't know if you call it a mantra, but is businesses often use developers as tools. And I know I shared this the other week, and I'll say it again. We're often used as tools, whereas we need to be seen and respected as the craftsmen or craftspeople, for being accurate, right? We need to be respected for being the experts in what we do. So we need to learn, and how this just started. So I'm going to take a break for those that can hear me. So I'm just going to BRB for a minute. Now, sorry about that. I was muted. I should know it muted. Okay. So, yeah, what I was about to say was we are often seen as tools to implement something, to give a product. We are, if you look at organizational structures, we're kind of at the bottom. In general, we're at the bottom of our tree. But in reality, we actually have a lot more control over the future of a software business. We have a lot more control over, because we are the experts. And what we need to do is kind of learn how to relay our concerns, our problems, our challenges, etc., effectively through the business. We need to visualize process. We need to make sure that we're not seeming like what is it, Chicken Little, where the sky is falling. You know, oh, there's problems. Oh, we can't do this. There's problems. So we need to learn how to convey effectively up the business chain what the challenges are with the software, so we don't sound like we're being dramatic, or we don't sound like we're being the alarmists, and start being treated as the craftspeople we actually are, or should be. We should be developing good software. We should be developing strong, maintainable, recreatable software. We shouldn't be building high dependency components. We shouldn't be building fragile systems. And that's kind of where I want to head. I want to be enabling developers to do those sorts of things and to be able to say no. And I've always felt that I have a better voice than other developers. I've learned my lessons through being too highly technical in a conversation, learning to just bite my tongue and think about the problem from a business perspective as well as a development perspective. And I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure that path out. Still trying to learn, how do I say, oh, well, I need to do this because I need to do this because, and taking bold steps. I also would love, long-term dream, if I could make my own business, I would love to start software apprenticeships as a thing. I think that school is great for understanding the algorithms, being taught this is a data structure, being taught this is why a database exists, this is what a database does, this is how networking works, this is how communications work at the lower level, this is how assembler is. But then bring people to practically apply those things and give them a role in which they're engaged and not just a lackey. They're not just off to the side doing the grunt work. They're actively involved in building software, actively engaged and participating in every component of the software development process. And that's kind of what I would love to do in my future. Right? I would love to build a place where apprenticeship is a thing, knowing that those people can move on, right? Knowing that those people, will likely move on, right, to other places, to other experiences, and actively encourage it to some extent, because I think you shouldn't, if you can say, I've worked at the same place for 20 years, if you're able to honestly say, I've learned so much, I've evolved so much, I've grown so much in those 20 years, I'm a much better developer and I can achieve all these different things, good for you, because I bet there's a lot of people that can't say that. I bet there's a lot of people that say, oh, I've just been doing the same job for 20 years. So I think not being afraid to chase the next opportunity, not being afraid to build better software and grow your own skill set for the good of you. The whole, what if we train them and they leave? What if we don't and they stay? Attitude. I'd say a challenge. I think I'm a road warrior, honestly. Never intended to be. My last gig I was there 7 years and loved it. I would have stayed if it wasn't for inflation and their inability to keep up with it. I mean, it's an individual choice, right? But I think software moves at such a pace that you are rarely able to be on the actual cutting edge of software, but keeping up with things, making sure you're developing the best software you can given the constraints, understanding those constraints and being able to relate to the business. Look, we could do this better. There's newer techniques, there's newer practices, there's newer technologies available to us. Maybe we can start moving to these things and building the software that is not quite so scary to adapt. 100% I cashed in. I want to retire, I'm in my prime earning years. Yeah. I'm 44. I started this. Luckily, I didn't do, well, for some reason, I didn't do the whole 4-year college thing. So I didn't start in my mid-20s. I started in my late teens. as a developer. Um, full honesty, my goal is to retire early, own a coffee shop, and only code for personal reasons, so I can tinker and learn and grow as I need. But I'm not going to get there unless I get rich really quick. Right? So I've got to be prepared for another 25 years of a career. And what does that look like? I can't imagine what software is going to look like in 25 years. I cannot imagine. So we've talked a lot about AI. We talked a lot about the impact it has on our practices, on the risks it has from a development perspective. I did bonus by jumping I am into the AI game. Last company started co-op there. Right. First question they ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You know, I've actually never been asked that question. I've asked the question, and the person replied, in your job, which was worrying because we're in a business where there wasn't much upward direction. So, great. I'm going to hire you knowing that you are coming after my role. Awesome. But I've never been asked the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But I'm actually going to ask you all a question. Where do you see yourselves in 5 years? Where do you see yourselves? So wherever you are in your career now, if you've passed 25 or you're a long way away from 25, where do you think you want to be when you hit your next milestone, Annabeth? Like a massive milestone. Like, again, I'm using this as a retrospective of 25 years, quarter century. It, to me, that's kind of a massive milestone in my life, in my career. But 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, where do you see yourself? Like, where do you want to be? Hopefully still coding. I really don't want to manage. Maybe moving into an architecture role. Hmm. So I am in an architecture role. I don't get to manage, but I don't get to code. I get to advise and guide, and hopefully keeping an idea of where all the moving parts are, so I can understand where our risk is and where challenges lie. And it is where my passion lies. My passion lies definitely in the back end of things. How does data move around? In terms of the development aspect, my passion lies there. How does data move around? How do I effectively build a system? What does software look like? Or what are your career goals? I mean, making money is kind of nice, right? Maybe a bit of solution architecture. Yeah. It's like I put it. Sorry, I've gone very quiet. It's not very effective for a stream, for me to go quiet because I'm not directly coding. I'm not coding at all. I'm not directly doing anything other than chatting. And the reason I left it in the software development categories rather than just chatting categories because I did want to open the stream up to more people to make sure that people looking at development streams would see this stream particularly. Like I've been looking at the way C Sharp's evolved, right? C Sharp as a language has evolved quite a lot over the last couple of years. Their focus has switched on to different technologies. Their focus has switched. We go cloud back, cloud back, cloud back. We've gone through several cycles there. Does Blazor still exist in 5 years? Well, Blazor will exist, but will Blazor be that legacy system? Will there be a new thing like the Aspire platform? The Aspire platform stuff is interesting from a deployment perspective, but comes with its own set of challenges. My biggest one is that like it's building that whole dependency of the systems around Microsoft specific technologies and APIs that you then have to maintain and keep, and you're forced to update everything potentially if they change their APIs. That concerns me a little bit. Because one of the beauties of building distributed systems is you could actually have different systems built in completely different languages and frameworks and use the benefits of the different languages. What will deploying an application look like in the future, right? Because this application is already kind of big. What will it look like? Will Kubernetes in the cloud be the thing? Will app services be the thing? We're moving. A lot of people have kind of been burned by the microservice deployment challenge. So microservices aren't necessarily the answer, the golden answer to everything, right? I hope Blazor doesn't end up like Silverlight. Well, Silverlight came at a very different time. It came at a time where we had even then we had no browser compatibility. So Silverlight was trying to solve a problem in a unique way. Well, not a unique way because Flash existed as well, but Silverlight was trying to bring those Microsoft technologies into the browser, provide that availability, and it kind of worked. I worked in a Silverlight application. I replaced the Silverlight application, but I still kind of worked in it. Yeah, like it, it's interesting. I think there's a lot more for us to do. I think there's a lot more for development. It's not an individual thing anymore. Back when I started, you could be an independent developer. Software wasn't as complicated. Um, so teams weren't as complicated. Software development in general has grown, and we've made things look easy. I don't know how many of you have experienced this, but have you been in a meeting where a product manager has said, "Well, it's just." Like, well, it's not just, is it? It's not just do this, just do that. There's a lot more involved. And again, we need to take ownership and become the experts again. At least WASM is community driven and supported by our browsers. But the WASM runs the challenge of a spec that needs to be maintained and respected, and you don't want to find that Microsoft has evolved and said, oh well, actually there's some extensions we can put to WASM in Edge, and now we've got WASM Edge and WASM Chrome and WASM Firefox and WASM, blah 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 blah. That's what we're going to be careful of, because again, it's the whole standards thing, right? I think again we had a conversation last night on Discord, and that was kind of brought up, right? There are 14 competing standards. Ridiculous. We need to develop one universal standard that covers everyone's use cases. Yeah, there's 15 competing standards. That's the problem. We have an opinion on how something should be done. We develop another thing to fix the problem that we thought we needed to fix. And now we've got another alternative to the thing that we had before. So it's happened many, many, many times, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon, because again, there's no universal agreement on what things are. And that's generally what software is about, right? Which language do you use? Which frameworks do you use within a language? Which libraries do you use? Which supporting technologies you use? One of the things I've enjoyed doing with the Liquid Sky project is making sure that I've given myself the opportunities and availability to change the technologies I'm using. And I'm not doing it deliberately to be difficult or to be clever with it. I'm doing it to kind of stretch my legs and show that it can be done that way. But every time I do that, it comes with added cost, right? Because I've got to add in, oh, well, now I need a MongoDB, I need SQL Server DBs, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that. It becomes harder. But then even HTML is a standard. HTML is a standard, but a standard that has been its own story of ups and downs and differences and deviations. And even then, the browser manufacturers don't have to necessarily follow the standard purely. The tags and stuff are standard, but they just have to implement them in there. So they can have still differences in the way things look. So yeah, it's our story continues, right? But HTML has been around since the mid-90s, and evolved, and we've not evolved that far from where we were then. Overall, CSS has come quite a long way as browsers have got better. There's a lot of different things out there. There's a lot of different technologies. There's a lot of different tools. There's a lot of different opinions on how to write software. So yeah. So that said about 3 hours. It's almost 4 hours. So here's where I'm going to leave this today. Liquid Sky, as we go forward, it's going to grow. I'm going to add more tomorrow. Well, this weekend, I'm going to start working on the extra requirements, editing pieces. I'm still talking. I like talking. Talking is good. I'm going to finish up though. And don't forget, if you like talking, if you like chatting, if you like hanging out in a really cool stream with really smart people and me, One Lion does run a community day on Fridays, and it is an awesome place to be, an awesome place to hang out. There's so many other streamers I would like to call out. There's so many other awesome people in this community. Whoa, One Lion. Thank you so much. Oh, Twitch had it. Wow. Wow, I became 6. Thank you, Mr. Jones, Bindle, Trap, Bellies, and Manoj. That's awesome. Twitch added the gift to Manoj. Thank you. Thank you, Online. I appreciate that so much. You didn't have to do that. Thank you.
Yep, Napalm, thank you very much for coming and hanging out and sharing your story as well. I appreciate it. That's kind of what I wanted this stream to be about. Yeah, that's completely thrown me off. Yes, thank you, thank you thank you so much for that. Thank you for the support. Liquid Sky will continue to grow. We're going to continue adding more features to this. In the very near future, I want to start engaging more of you to kind of ask the questions of, does this solve the problems or does this start helping solve the problems? So I'm hoping to get this into, I appreciate that. Into more people's hands soon. Talk about the deployment story, talk about those pieces and get those pieces done and working, and then explore more into the actual stories to kind of visualize that aspect. So Liquid Sky is going to continue to get stronger and stronger towards the end of the year. So my goal by Christmas is that we have Liquid Sky in a deployable state that people can log in and test with me, can interact with. And I'm really looking forward to hearing people's opinions. And as always, I do always want people's opinions. If you think this software is terrible, if you think this idea is terrible, as long as you don't just say it's terrible and walk away, I'm happy. That I'm just going to like ignore. But if you say it's terrible because, I'm open to hearing that. I want to challenge myself to understand, why am I building this? And I want to make sure that I'm not just an echo chamber, right? Because I'm going to validate myself. I'm going to say, yeah, it solves the problem. And I did ask the questions. I was going through the agile training this last couple of days. I did ask the questions, am I solving a problem? And I still feel I am. I still feel I'm meeting that need. And it still feels like there's a viable option here that will help teams describe things correctly and represent things properly and not get bogged down in the, well, it has to fit this and it has to fit this because you should do it this way, right? So I want to give that flexibility. And then developers.stream we'll talk more about in the upcoming weeks. And I kind of want to make that a side project thing that is available to us. So yeah, please, 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 please. Oh, I finished. Mr. Basheras was about to get Mr. Bashir was about to get a raid. I want to send this positivity over to somewhere. I think we're going to Andreas. Unless we know of any other .NET devs that are programming that are worth hanging out with. I think we'll end up with Andreas. So once more, I do want to say thank you. Thank you very much for coming and hanging out with me today. This is a fun anniversary day. I wanted to mark it in some way. I think it's good to retrospect. So I will be in one line stream in a little while. That's not too far away. And for now, validation is important. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. You too, Manoj. Thank you very much for coming and hanging out. Thank you for being here. And let's go and raid Andreas. Take it over there, and then I will go get more coffee. I need more coffee. So take care all. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend if I don't see you around on Twitch today. And I will be back again on Monday morning with some more Liquid Sky. Hopefully some more improvements. Take care all. Bye.